Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. The Great Voyage of the People. Unlock the Dreadnought Battleship at the beginning. Chapter 61. Golden Captain's Command Sword. Equipped by epic captains, the standard commander's sword of the legendary ancient Golden Fleet. Special attributes. Captains all attributes +5. Special skills. Golden Horn, Golden Charge. Golden Horn. Blowing the golden horn during the battle can greatly improve the morale of our combatants, increase the attack strength of warships by 20%, and the attack speed of naval guns by 30%. Duration: 30 minutes, with a cooldown of 24 hours. Golden Charge. When the skill is activated during marching or battle, the warships under the captain's command will gain a temporary speed bonus, increasing the 0% movement speed. Duration: 30 minutes, 12 hours cooldown. This equipment is very strong. Chen Yong held the golden commanding sword in his hand with some love, he couldn't put it down. Not to mention the sky-defying bonus of adding 5 to all attributes, the 2 additional skills are enough to determine the outcome of a close naval battle. Strong, there is no limit to deception. But it's so strong, why is it only epic? Shouldn't it be legendary equipment? Chen Yong often visits the Predator Mall, and many legendary personal equipment are not as strong as this matching sword. Until Chen Yong saw a small line of comments on the note. Note: the Golden Captain's command sword has fallen due to the Grey Curse. Even so, the rotten Grey still cannot cover the Golden Light. The Grey Curse. What is that? It turned out to be a downgraded legendary weapon. Shaking his head blankly, Chen Yong drew out the golden command sword made of gold. The blade was slender and extremely sharp. After installing this command sword, Chen Yong felt that he had become stronger again, 15 times the physique of an ordinary person. Half a Superman, right? Although in this boundless and endless sea, personal force is meaningless, but at least there is an additional means of self-protection. Hey, this sword is so bright, let me play with it. As soon as he turned his head, he saw Xiaolu with shining eyes, full of longing. What kind of sword do brats play with? They don't sleep and run around in the middle of the night, and they want to be beaten. Just show it to me. I think this sword is like my long-lost relative. There is an inexplicable sense of familiarity. Old man, old man. Before Chen Yong uttered his third cry, the little girl had slipped away with grease on the soles of her feet. After a while, only then did Orf react with a dazed face, and asked via the battleship radio, "Commander, what's the matter?" Chen Yong, whose ears were baffled by the sound of the loudspeaker, quickly waved his hands to indicate that there was nothing wrong. Sudden, Orf's high-pitched voice sounded again. "Captain, there is an island suspected to be the base island ahead. Do you want to go and find out?" Base island. Chen Yong climbed up the command tower in 2 or 3 steps, and raised his binoculars to find the legendary base island. Where? At an angle between 30 degrees and 40 degrees west of north, a destroyer active sonar detected a floating island. What about the distance? About 200 nautical miles. 200 nautical miles. Hurry up, turn around and target the floating island. Yes, Orf quickly issued an order. The whole ship listened to the order, turned immediately, and rushed to the destination at full speed. Order issued. The huge fleet began to turn their heavy bodies one after another, stirring up bursts of water in the vortex of water. At the same time, the virtual conference room inside the 7 fleets. It wasn't until the first 5 captains arrived one after another that the angry Bai Song joined the virtual meeting room with a ding. "Hey, isn't this our Captain Bai Song? I haven't seen you for a few days, and the dark circles under my eyes are heavy again. I reminded you early in the morning, the elderly should learn to go to bed early and get up early. Staying up late is not good for your health. Hailong, if you can't speak, just shut your mouth, or I will tear your mouth apart." Bai Song was angry from the heart, he was in a bad mood, he came in for a meeting, and was mocked by the Black Dragon. How could he bear it? Turn on porcupine mode directly. The old man has such a temper. Come here if you have the ability. I am afraid that you will fail. Young people, don't be too arrogant. Don't you call yourself a young man? Enough. Give me a break. Is this the time to fight? Lan Hao, who was sitting on the main seat, changed his humble and kind attitude in the past. At this moment, his face was gloomy like 10 rattlesnakes bearing their fangs. Hailong raised his hands. "I was just joking, I didn't want to quarrel." Bai Song took a deep breath, trying to calm himself down. Everyone looked sideways at the seventh empty seat, which was originally the exclusive seat for Lakawa, but now it is empty. The faces of the 7 captains were not very good looking. Obviously, the destruction of the Lakawa fleet caused them quite a shock. In the past, there were all kinds of small fights among the fleets, and everyone could turn a blind eye or close one eye. But now, one of the 7 thrones will eventually collapse. The other 6 said it was impossible not to be nervous. Bai Song, you urgently applied for the convening this time. Please tell me in detail what happened. Lan Hao opened his mouth, and the others also focused their attention. Bai Song took a deep breath, and slapped the virtual projection on the table. Chen Yang, this thief has become a serious problem. Lakawa was beheaded by him in just a few hours. As soon as this word came out, the captains were in an uproar. Some were shocked, some were expressionless, and some were pensive. White Pine gets emotional. I said earlier that this thief, Chen Yang, is bound to become a serious problem, but what about you? Everyone thinks that I am alarmist and that it has nothing to do with me. What about now? Have you seen the end of the Lakawa fleet? If you continue to be obsessed and take chances. To put it bluntly, Lakawa's today is your tomorrow. Rumbling. It seemed that a thunderbolt exploded in the minds of the captains. How is the Lakawa fleet? Captain Moon asked, who had been silent beside him. I saw Bai Song showing a sad expression. My poor good brother Lakawa, when I arrived, the fleet was already in flames, and I didn't even have time to save the surrender. Hey, I blame myself for being useless. The Chen Yang thief had already set fire to the Lakawa fleet before I arrived, and withdrew early. I couldn't catch up. These words made the faces of several major captains even more ugly. This Chen Yang actually killed and surrendered. If Chen Yang were here, he would definitely give Bai Song a thumbs up and award him 10 or 8 Oscar statuettes. Unforgivable. My Redbeard fleet can't stand it. My Morning Star fleet is also the same. The Chen Yang traitor has become a scourge. We must concentrate our superior forces and wipe them out in one fell swoop. Here, Hailong remained calm and did not speak, but shifted his gaze to Lan Hao and the moon. The 7 major fleets, the upper 3rd fleet, and the lower 4th fleet, this is the potential ranking that everyone in the Blue Sea knows. The real talkers are the 3 leaders who have won the base island. Lan Hao nodded. From this point of view, Chen Yang has indeed become the most dangerous enemy of our 7 fleets. We can no longer just sit and wait for death, we must take the initiative to attack, encircle and destroy them in one fell swoop. Finish. He looked at the moon beside him. What does Captain Moon think? Moon's beautiful eyes twinkle like water. I think that newcomer named Aocean can be used. In the early hours of the morning, Chen Yang's huge fleet rushed to the target sea area with a whimper. Before he knew it, he had accumulated more than 80 warships of various types. This does not include the nearly 200 warships that have been built in the system space and have not yet been summoned. If all of them are pulled out, what kind of powerful deterrent force is this? Orf stood in the command room in high spirits. Although he didn't rest all night, he was still in a state of excitement. As for Chen Yang, he had climbed to the observation point on the top of the battleship mast long ago and searched the sea in all directions. Strange, isn't it just in this sea area? Why is there nothing? Hey, the destroyer in front is reporting the situation, have you found the target? Orf's inquiry sounded. Immediately after, the destroyer captain's bewildered voice came over the radio. Report to Admiral Orf, in the active sonar scan, there is a floating island ahead, but it is invisible. What mess. Don't tell me, that island is invisible. Maybe it's really invisible. Chen Yang's familiar voice sounded from behind. Orf was taken aback. At some point, Chen Yang returned to the command tower so abruptly. Commander, what do you mean? Can't find this island because it's invisible. Holding the sonar feedback map, Chen Yang could vaguely see a triangular island. But Chen Yang turned it over suddenly, so that the feet were upside down and the head was down. Bang! At this time, a destroyer hit something ahead. But just such a bump is like smashing the mirror shrouded in front of the truth, revealing everything. As far as the eye can see, it is a dark uninhabited island and reef, with a length of more than 2 kilometers and a width of 1,200 meters. Like a piece of old rotten wood, it quietly floats in the vortex of the water, without being affected by the eddy of the water at all. Hey, is this the base island? Chen Yang expressed disbelief. According to my own imagination, even if there are no towering warehouses and shipyards on the base island, there should be some vegetation, buildings or something. But the truth is, there is nothing. The outer fleet is on alert, and 2 V-type destroyers are sent to the island for testing. With Chen Yang's order, the entire fleet became busy, vigilant and ready for war. Be careful to sail for 10,000 years, this sentence can never be overstated. The moment when the destroyer sailors landed on the mysterious Black Island, Chen Yang received a reminder from the administrator of the Endless Sea. Congratulations, Voyager, successfully landed on the first-level base island, do you want to bind and occupy it? Hearing the prompt, Chen Yang was overjoyed, and quickly chose to bind. Sure, congratulations to Voyager for obtaining the first-level base island. Do you want to make a full channel announcement? No, what are you kidding? Although he is very strong now, he has not yet reached the point where he attracts hatred so much. Being a man is still low-key. After confirming that there was no danger around, Chen Yang and Orf drove the flagship slowly approaching. As soon as he stepped on the island, information about the base island appeared in front of him. Level 1 base island, Shenyang upgradable. Length, 2,205 meters. Width, 1058 meters. Constant floating height, 3.4 meters. Special attributes, shipbuilding speed increased by 15%. Shipbuilding material consumption reduced by 15%. Increase the number of ships built by 15%. Great Sea tax reduced by 15%. Special ability, Phantom Island. Phantom Island. After opening, all things within 1 kilometer of Shenyang Island Fangyuan can be pulled into the invisible state. Duration, 2 hours, cooldown time 48 hours. Special hidden shipyard, Shenyang Shipyard. Building ships in this shipyard will have a chance to obtain special skills, Shadow Walker. Shadow Walker. After opening, it enters the semi-stealth effect. The chance of being discovered is reduced by 40%, the duration is 3 hours, and the cooling time is 24 hours. Passive. When advancing in the dark, the chance of being detected is reduced by 60%. Upgrade experience. 0.001. The built-in attributes of the base island are dispensable to Chen Yang, but the special buildings did surprise Chen Yang. In naval battles, whoever's fleet is discovered first will have a completely different outcome. If the probability of being discovered can be reduced, the safety of the fleet will be greatly increased, and the winning rate of the fleet against the enemy will be increased. At the same time, Chen Yang is more concerned about the island's own skills, Phantom Island. It can pull itself and its own units within 1 kilometer into an invisible state. Whether it is to ambush the enemy or to escape, it is a magical skill. It just takes a long time to cool down. This is just the most basic first-level base island, and it can be upgraded to 2nd level, 3rd level, and 4th level. The higher the level, the larger the island area and the stronger the boost effect. Bow your head and step on the dusty island with 2 feet. This island looks dark, but the name is apt. No wonder the sonar could scan it before, but the eyes couldn't see it. It turned out to be the special ability of Shenyang Island. Administrator, I want to know how to upgrade the base island. Chen Yang just asked subconsciously, never expecting to get an answer. However, this time, the owner of the base island can upgrade by devouring the core of the island or the base island of the same level. Chen Yang was startled, the administrator actually took care of him. Could it be that after I got the base island, the weight increased a little with the administrator? Quickly asked, may I ask what is the core of the island? Island cores will only be generated on normal islands that are not resource islands, please explore for specific information by yourself. Well, that's half the story. Ask again, and there is no movement on the other side. It seems that my weight is still not high enough. Immediately after, Chen Yang became distressed, how to take away such a large floating island. Next second, a large amount of information was passed into his mind, which came from the base island under his feet, describing in detail the function overview of Shenyang Island and how to use it. I saw Chen Yang returning to the flagship, next to Xiaolu was wondering what he was going to do, and saw him grabbing with his right hand. Small. The 2-kilometer-long black floating island in front of me shrunk rapidly, covered by an illusory triangular cover, and turned into the size of a palm in a blink of an eye. Chen Yang supports this miniature island with one hand, which seems to be as heavy as Mount Tai. Smaller 2.6, smaller. Xiaolu raised her small hand, her eyes widened. Pedestal, Chen Yang shouted, and Orf hurriedly handed over an iron statue base. The moment Chen Yang put down the miniature island, the huge King-class battleship sank several meters suddenly, then swept away the surrounding sea water, and then rose rapidly in the next second. Immediately after, the gravity of the mini-island disappears, and it looks like an ordinary inverted triangular stone, quietly suspended above the base. Is this the legendary base island? Orf couldn't help but wonder. Although it was very difficult, we did get one. It can only be said that we were lucky. A blind cat ran into a dead mouse. Chen Yang stared at the base island in front of him very satisfied, and it was very easy to release the base island. Put it in a sea area with a large enough area, and it will quickly expand back to its original size. Just as Chen Yang was trying to find a second base island, Aocean's communication interrupted the silence of the afternoon. Captain Chen Yang, congratulations, you have successfully defeated the 6th-ranked Lakawa fleet. Such feats are probably unprecedented. Okay, I don't need to say polite words. I don't know what the head of Aocean asked Chen for today. Compared with yesterday's hospitable Chen Yang, today's Chen Yang is like a different person, and his tone is extraordinarily cold. Even on the opposite side of the communication system, Aocean can feel a coldness that repulses people thousands of miles away. Well, just this morning, I got a new message. Before the next sentence was uttered, Chen Yang's words were directly pasted on his face. Are the 7 fleets planning to join forces to deal with me? Chief Chen Yang, you already know. The opposite side was slightly surprised. Oh, no, it's the 6 major fleets. The Lakawa fleet has become history. Leader Chen Yang, I want to say. Go back and tell your master that I, Chen Yang, have accepted the challenge of the 6 fleets, but I want to place a higher bet. These words are unabashed contempt and ridicule. Let Aocean, who can understand the meaning between the lines, change his face several times, one piece is white and the other is white. He can't remember when he was exposed. If not, it can only show that Chen Yang is a man with deep scheming and vicious eyes. Head Chen Yang is joking, I just don't help each other. Chen Yang didn't pick up the words, he has always disliked fools like Aocean. Go back and tell the 6th fleet that I am waiting for them in the Sea of Storms. If they don't come, I will take these precious base islands away. Voice just fell. Aocean saw Chen Yang's name turned black. This is not that Chen Yang is dead, but that he has been blocked. For a long time, Aotian slowly took off his glasses, already soaked by the sweat on his forehead. He swore that in his life, he had never seen an opponent who made him feel so frightened. And the opponent didn't even regard him as an opponent. A kind of contempt from the bottom of his heart made Aocean's knuckles turn white, and his gums were almost crushed. Chen Yang, the 6 major fleets, you all wait for me, all of you wait for me, one day, I, Aocean, will trample all of you underfoot. Bang bang bang. There were crackling and chaotic collisions in the captain's command room. At the same time, in the battleship captain's dining room, Orf stopped his graceful movements, and asked with some concern, Commander, are you being too blunt when you say that? We have too many enemies, and we are at a disadvantage. Chen Yang shook his head. A guy who can't even stick to his own heart and wants to get some benefits by being a fool all day long, I'm giving him face by saying that. And, if he hadn't leaked my route, how could Lakawa and White Pine have known that I would appear last night? If I see this weed in this war, remember to give him a shot, old man. Ha ha ha. Orf laughed. He just likes Chen Yang's straightforward and true nature. He can always see the shadow of his youth in Chen Yang. Moreover, Chen Yang's character is perfectly neutralized. When it is time to calm down, he is calmer than anyone else, and when he loses his temper, it is also a torrent. How boring are you adults fighting and killing all day long? Are you not tired? Xiaolu stared at her eyes like silver bells. Then why are you still working so hard to learn about sailing and warships? Why don't you just go to the kitchen and learn how to cook? Chen Yang asked jokingly. HMPH. I want to maintain world peace in the endless sea. When I grow up, I will take my invincible fleet to cruise the endless sea and make sure that peace is the most important thing for everyone. These words made the other two laugh. Orf suddenly said. By the way, leader, you have to be careful about one person. Qiqian. That's right. I've checked a lot of information about him for a while, and the information I may have obtained is very limited. This person is very mysterious, as if hiding some big unknown secret. Chen Yang nodded solemnly. It can be said that in the entire Blue Sea, the person he couldn't see through and the one he didn't want to get close to was Qiqian. Instinctively, he felt a disgusting aura about him. Why I hate it, I can't explain it myself. Or it is most appropriate to use a man's sixth sense to describe it. Orf was about to speak, when Chen Yang raised his index finger to the corner of his mouth, Qiqian's voice communication. The other two quickly shut up, leaving room for Chen Yang. This is a special function of the Business Alliance, and the Mere World channel can only transmit text. But as long as you are willing to spend money, you can also handle high-priced packages in the Business Alliance. Support voice calls for a certain period of time. As soon as it was connected, Qiqian's lazy voice sounded from the opposite side. It's like just sunbathing, it's not comfortable. Head Chen Yang, good afternoon. Why is Mr. Qiqian so elegant? What do you want from me? The other side paused for 3 seconds and said, I just heard that Captain Chen Yang defeated the Lakawa fleet. If Mr. Qiqian came here to tease me, there's no need for it. It's nothing, I'll hang up. Hey, wait, don't worry, I'm going to talk about business. The conversation on the other side changed, and the tone changed. Business. Chen Yang narrowed his eyes in doubt. I want to cooperate with Captain Chen Yang to find the base island together. Not interested in. Just as he was about to hang up, the next sentence on the opposite side made Chen Yang not calm down. In this way, my information is correct. It seems that the first base island that appeared this year has indeed been taken under the command of Captain Chen Yang. Chen Yang's body was tense, and he calmed down in an instant. I don't know what you're talking about. I've been busy with the Lakawa fleet for the past 2 days. Tisk tisk tisk, Captain Chen Yang, don't be modest. If you don't believe me, you can check the list of administrator base islands, and you can see the data of production base islands and remaining base islands. Chen Yang was dubious, and opened the list of administrator base islands. As expected, see 4 base islands with their names lit together on the list. They are Fortress, Qianyuan, Tianxiang, Shenyang. Isn't his base island exactly Shenyang Island? Although I hid the announcement, I didn't expect it to be announced. And below, there are 6 base islands in question marks. That is to say, the total number of throne bases can be spawned in Azure Sea. Instead of spawning 10 bases every time it is opened. In this way, it shows the preciousness of these base islands even more. You want to capture the other 6 base islands? Chen Yang asked back. No, I only need 1. After all, to open the Azure City, I only need 1 key to be eligible to enter. The Azure City. What is that? Chen Yang was shocked. He didn't expect that this guy even knew about Azure City. And, the key. What key? Is there anything in the Blue Sea that I don't know? At this moment, Chen Yang's complexion became exciting. Seemingly knowing that his words had successfully attracted Chen Yang's attention, Qiqian made a slightly exaggerated tone. Head Chen Yang doesn't know the legend about the Azure City in the Azure Sea territory. I'm just a rookie. Qiqian was choked by Chen Yang's casual words. Are you telling him that it's normal for me as a newcomer not to know these things? I saw Qiqian laughing, not embarrassed. So, it is very necessary to tell Captain Chen Yang the biggest legend in the Azure Sea. Appreciate further details. Chen Yang responded. It is said that in ancient times, the Azure Sea territory was still a part of the Endless Sea, and it was not separated from the Endless Sea like it is now. Later a voyager named Azure became one of the first voyagers to enter the Endless Sea. He overcame thorns and thorns all the way, continued to grow, and finally broke into the mysterious and dangerous depths of the Endless Sea. Many years later, Bilan, who had already become the Overlord, returned to this place of birth, and even moved her main base back here. Why? Chen Yang was puzzled. Some people say it's because the Overlord has suffered from injuries for many years, and his time has come, so he chose to return to his hometown, return to the original starting point, and spend the rest of his life in peace. Some people also said that this Overlord was avoiding some kind of terrible threat and fear, because after he returned to the Azure Sea region, he separated the Azure Sea region from the Endless Sea, making the huge Azure Sea region an independent region. Avoid danger. Chen Yang touched his chin. He thought this statement was very interesting. What will it be that can make the overlord who dominates the depths of the Endless Sea feel threatened, and must choose to escape back to the original place of the Blue Sea? Chen Yang couldn't figure it out, and couldn't figure it out. So, what happened next? Later, this special Blue Sea area came into existence. No one knew what happened afterwards. Many years later, the Blue Sea area became calm until it was reopened more than 30 years ago, reconnected with the Endless Sea, and returned to the novice area again. Responsibilities. Quote. So the Azure Sea has only been opened for less than 40 years. Chen Yang muttered to himself. He raised his head and asked, since the Azure Sea has been closed for so long, how did the newcomers discover it? Qi Qian continued on the opposite side. The legend of the Blue Overlord is famous all over the world because of a stone tablet on the sea. The stone tablet is located in the center of the storm. A huge stone tablet with a height of 100 meters describes the life story of this treasure. This monument is like the Overlord tombstone, with an epitaph from the past written. And according to the research of the ruins of the Azure Sea territory by the latecomers, the legend of the Overlord of the Azure Sea territory has finally been confirmed. It is said that after the Overlord died, he hid his most precious main city, the Azure City, in the deepest part of the Sea of Storms. And if you want to find it, you must gather 10 base islands and piece them together to form the key to open the door, so that you can find the real Azure City. Hearing this, Chen Yang was a little lost. In ancient times, the Overlord in the depths of the Endless Sea avoided danger and cut the Blue Sea. These key words all remind Chen Yang that there has been an earth-shattering big shot in this small Blue Sea. In the end, he buried himself in this sea of primordial, together with the light. I have 3 questions, Chen Yang said. Qi Qian knew that Chen Yang was already moved, and such news would be 10,000% lethal to the new couple. Excuse me, I can't say enough. First, why did the 7 fleets and even you choose to stay in the Azure Sea for 10 years, just for the Azure City? Of course, everything has been said for this sake, and there is no need to hide it. It can be said that all the voyagers who deliberately stayed in the Blue Sea area, 9 out of 10 did so for this legendary treasure. I came to the Endless Sea relatively late. I only entered the Azure Sea 2 years ago. This is the first time I have entered the Sea of Storms. Then the second question, what does the base island mean? Why can it be used as the key to open the Blue City? This question, I think only the Blue Overlord can answer your answer, probably because the 10 base islands are originally one, just to test future generations, set up a puzzle. The Blue Overlord would be so kind. I only said it was possible, otherwise he could have destroyed everything when he died. Why did he make it so complicated? Why not find a descendant? Chen Yang scratched the back of his head. His answer was somewhat forced, but he couldn't find anything to refute. After all, the ancient times are a long time away from the present, and who knows what the ancient Overlord was thinking back then. Last question. I want to know the relationship between the Azure Fleet and the Azure Overlord. The other side was taken aback for a moment, and then couldn't help but burst out laughing. You don't think that Guy Langia has anything to do with that Overlord, do you? It's just a poor imitator, nothing worthy of attention. Qi Qian thought that Chen Yang's last question would ask about his intelligence. But I never thought that Chen Yang asked such a dramatic question, isn't this the obvious answer? He tentatively asked. Backquote, doesn't the leader Chen Yang want to ask questions about me? I'm not interested in men. Qi Qian. BB. I can consider the cooperation you mentioned, but I was blind when I found the base island. If you have any way to find the base island, I don't mind giving it a try. After receiving Chen Yang's reply, Qi Qian on the opposite side suddenly became acquainted. Leader Chen Yang, the two of us have joined forces to obtain as many base islands as possible, and when opening the door, we can also have more authority and the right to speak. Chen Yang reminded. Cooperate with me, then you have to be careful. After all, I am now the thorn in the flesh of the 6 fleets. They have joined forces and plan to concentrate their efforts on dealing with money. Be careful that they also treat you as an enemy. Having said that, Keiichi Zhao Hao Hao is not afraid at all. Ha ha ha, don't get in the way, don't get in the way, it's just a bunch of rabble. I believe in the strength of Captain Chen Yang. Chen Yang rolled his eyes. I still need Lao Su to be the first. You guys are so easy to reap the benefits of the fishermen, right? Chen Yang sees through but doesn't tell the truth. I'll just hang up if there's nothing wrong. If there's anything else, you can contact me. Wait, brother Chen Yang, I have good news for you. Someone has discovered the location of one or even two base islands, but the situation here is complicated, and no one has found it yet. Are you interested in coming? Of course, send me the coordinates, and I'll rush there immediately. Say it. Chen Yang hung up the communication. The conversation just now made him unable to calm down for a long time. It turns out that the little blue sea still hides so many secrets. It wasn't until Orf returned that he woke up suddenly. Old man, rush to this coordinate immediately, and be fast. The Cliff Sea area, as the name suggests, is a dangerous sea area densely covered with cliffs on the seabed. The chaotic terrain makes this sea area full of dangers. The broken cliffs on the bottom of the sea are crisscrossed, and some even protrude from the water surface, cutting the sea as sharply as knives and axes. There are 4 large characters written all over the body. Maybe you can also add the words, at your own risk. So, you need to be extra careful when navigating here. If you don't pay attention, you will bump into a cliff hidden 2 or 3 meters underwater. Once it hits, it will be disabled even if it is not dead, and the price is extremely high. It was already 2 days later when Chen Yang arrived in this sea area. In 2 days, tens of thousands of voyagers gathered around the Cliff Sea area. Those who can come here are already strong. Even so, after 2 days, 99% of the people are still hesitant, in a dilemma. Ahead, there are already many fragments floating in the Cliff Sea area. It is the unlucky one who broke into the Cliff Sea area and sank due to hitting a rock. There are also people who are trapped and wandering in the complex channel like ecstasy. Because of the existence of the vortex of water, the Cliff Sea area becomes more dangerous. The vortex is turbulent, and once it is too late to turn, it will be slapped on the cliff by the vortex and smashed to pieces. In the end, many people chose to abandon their warships and escaped in embarrassment by paddling small boats. Qiqian was very surprised that Chen Yang dared to come with 1 person and 1 ship. Yes, 1 person and 1 ship, but a small steel ship with a displacement of more than 2,000 tons. He just stood at the bow of the ship calmly, waving hello to Qiqian who rushed here with the entire New Century fleet. Brother Qiqian, good morning. Qiqian had a strange expression, intending to search for more warships in his field of vision. But obviously, there really isn't one. The scouts reported that Chen Yang's fleet was still not found dozens of nautical miles away. This is very strange. Is this troublemaker Chen Yang confident? Or is he conceited? Captain, this Chen Yang really came alone. If we sink him, I believe the 6th Fleet will be very happy. The adjutant's eyes were full of blood. Qiqian glared at him fiercely. You are stupid, please don't think others are as stupid as you. Do you really think that Chen Yang broke into Longtan alone? He is testing me. Qiqian walked out of the captain's room and came to the deck to wave to Chen Yang who was across the sea. I didn't expect brother Chen Yang to come here sooner than I thought. It's been a hard journey. I suggest you take a rest first. Aren't you going to find the base island now? Qiqian shook his head. In the past few days, hundreds of unlucky people have plunged into it without looking back, and the result can be imagined. Then what should I do? Waiting here is not an option. The dogs of the 6th Fleet must have smelled me and are rushing here. The other side waved his hand. Brother Chen Yang, please be calm and calm. According to my knowledge of the Cliff Sea area, on the night of the full moon on the 15th of each month, the penetrating moonlight can make it easier for us to find the location of the sea cliff and the location of the cliff direction. Not only that, the strong moonlight will attract a large number of fluorescent jellyfish to appear. At that time, these fluorescent jellyfish will illuminate the bottom of the entire Cliff Sea area, and outline the channel leading to the depths of the Cliff Sea area. And tonight is the 15th of the month. Crack, crack, crack. Chen Yang applauded and gave Qiqian a thumbs up. As expected of Captain Qiqian who built the big fleet into the 8th Fleet of the Azure Sea in just 2 years, I admire you. Qiqian laughed with him. It's just a little experience that I like to study hydrological characteristics on weekdays. It's not worth mentioning, it's not worth mentioning. Be vigilant in your heart. This guy Chen Yang found out about his promotion to captain so soon. To know that he has only been promoted for 3 to 5 days, how did he know? I saw Chen Yang embracing his hands, so, I will take this opportunity to have a good rest and wait for the moon to come out. By the way, I have prepared some good wine and meat on the ship. I wonder if Brother Qi Qian would like to reward you. Let's have a good drink. Qi Qian remained calm, neither agreed nor refused. Brother Chen Yang's kindness is hard to come by, but the matter is of great importance. I must investigate and analyze the nearby hydrological information as much as possible so that I can be prepared. AFFJ. It's not too late to drink this celebration wine until we take down those 2 base islands. Ha ha ha. Well, since that's the case, Brother Qi Qian, let's make a deal like this. Chen Yang waved his hand and lazily returned to the cabin. Although the tonnage of this Fletcher-class destroyer beyond the times is small, it is a proper work of art in terms of craftsmanship and design. It was completely incomparable to those stupid, black and thick iron-clad ships next to Qi Qian. Such a unique battleship naturally attracted the attention of many people. Look, isn't that the newcomer Wang Chen Yang's ship? Why did he come to the Cliff Sea area with a battleship? Are you crazy? It may also be fishing. After all, the Lakawa fleet has just been defeated, and now the 6 major fleets are looking for him all over the world. Qi Qian, the new Century Grand Fleet Group, dares to get involved with Chen Yang. How dare you? Hush, don't talk nonsense, this Qi Qian is not a good person. There was a lot of discussion, and the Cliff Sea that had just calmed down might become lively again. At the same time, the news of Chen Yang's single-handed arrival at the Cliff Sea area also quickly spread to the ears of the 6 major fleets. Several people arranged an online meeting as soon as possible. Bai Song was the first to stand up. Chen Yang, the traitor, how dare he go to the Cliff Sea area alone? It is simply the best chance God has given us. I suggest that the coalition forces gather in the Cliff Sea area and annihilate them. Morning Star also nodded. It is indeed a good opportunity. My scouts in the Cliff Sea area have confirmed that Chen Yang's fleet has not been found within tens of nautical miles of Fang Yuan. He indeed came here alone. The red beard frowned, a little hesitant. Aren't you afraid of being a trap? Chen Yang is very cunning and ruthless. If he dares to come alone, doesn't he have any backup? Black Dragon agrees. That's right. In my opinion, this must be a trap set by Chen Yang. Maybe his fleet is secretly sneaking into Chen's warehouse and preparing to ambush us. If this person is really so stupid, how could the Lakawa fleet be destroyed? I think it's better to take a long-term plan and make a decision. Hearing this, Bai Song was furious immediately. Black Dragon, Red Beard, you two obviously don't want to make a move. I've explained the situation very clearly, why don't you still understand? This thief, Chen Yang, is bound to cause serious trouble. Okay, stop arguing, every meeting is noisy, you guys are really annoying. If it doesn't work, let's disband the joint fleet, go back to each house, each finds each mother. The moon snorted with displeasure. One sentence completely shut up the others. I think it's better to let Master Lan Hao decide. Everyone's eyes shifted to Lan Hao, who had a deep expression on his face, weighing the pros and cons. How about this? Since everyone is afraid and worried that it is a trap, I suggest that each family send out 1/10 of the fleet to form a coalition force and rush to the Cliff Sea area. Let's see what kind of tricks this Chen Yang is playing. More and more voyagers gathered in the Cliff Sea area. The news that someone claimed to have seen several floating islands sinking in the deepest part of the Cliff Sea had already spread throughout the Blue Sea. The voyagers who entered the stormy sea swarmed like sharks smelling blood. But latecomers learned smarter. When Qi Qian and newcomer Wang Chen Yang didn't move, they also remained motionless, waiting for the opportunity. When the yawning Chen Yang stretched his waist and walked out of the cabin, it was already bright moonlight and long starlight outside. Just about to say hello to Qi Qian, who was facing across the sea, the other party pointed to the Cliff Sea area ahead. There are dots of light rising from the deep seabed, and these floating lights are special creatures from the Cliff Sea area, fluorescent jellyfish. Under the stimulation of moonlight, fluorescent jellyfish will float up from the deep seabed, or look for food, or reproduce. As time goes by, there are more and more light spots, more and more. An amazing scene happened. The sea area of the huge cliff was unexpectedly illuminated by fluorescent jellyfish-like streamers, clearly separating the cliff from the sea. Illuminate the entire cliff sea area, like a dream. Chen Yong held up an old-fashioned camera and kept snapping. At this time, Orf's voice was heard. Captain, I found a joint fleet composed of 6 major fleets, about 30 nautical miles away from the cliff sea area. The whole army is on the attack. No, it's just an improvised fleet, probably used to test our reality. Then don't do anything, continue to hide, and when these dogs return, send them all to the sea to feed the fish. Clear. Hang up communication. Chen Yong raised his head and looked at Qi Qian. Is the opportunity ripe now? Certainly. Qi Qian took the lead, and he chose a small steamship with no more than 1,000 tons, which could only be regarded as a gunboat. It should be specially customized and modified for this mission. The speed is good, the fastest can run 24 knots. Although it is incomparable with Chen Yang's 38-knot high-speed Fletcher class, it is enough to deal with the current situation. Enter along the gap, and then judge the route according to the trajectory of the distribution of fluorescent jellyfish. Although there are guidelines, it is not ruled out that there are reefs covered by fluorescent jellyfish. So the speed of the 2 ships is very slow. At this time, there was a shout from outside. Chen Yong thief, you have been completely surrounded by my 6 fleets. This time, let's see where you are going, and you will be captured if you don't let go. To this, Chen Yong grinned, and responded directly with a loudspeaker. You fools of the 6th fleet, come in and catch me if you can. Fire, shoot me and kill him. However, in the next second, tens of thousands of warships completely surrounded this combined fleet of only 1,000 warships. What do you want? Rebellion, the combined fleet commander roared, pointing at these battleships and cursing. My lord, I waited until the night of the full 15th month. If you fire the cannon, you will definitely scare away these fluorescent jellyfish used to guide the channel, and wait until the next time you have a chance to enter the cliff sea area. I don't know what year and month it is. Quote, you 6 fleets can't be so rude and unreasonable. The commander was furious. You want to openly confront my 6 fleets? Are you courting death? However, these words did not deter everyone. Instead, more and more ships stood in front of the fleet. The 2 sides were deadlocked for a moment. At this time, Chen Yong, who was cautiously advancing towards the depths of the cliff sea, complimented Qi Qian. Brother Qi Qian is really a good method. This ability to respond to hundreds of thousands of people, even the 6 major fleets, are difficult to do. Bar, ha ha ha, be polite, they are only protecting their own interests, and all I do is help them find enough interests. Since the interests of both parties are the same, naturally someone is willing to stand up. At this time, the 2 light battleships crossed the complex waterway and finally reached the end of the entrance. 2 high cliffs protruding from the sea in front formed a huge triangular entrance. After entering, there is Yumapingchuan. Looking back, there are all kinds of dangers. Without these fluorescent jellyfish, it would be impossible to get in. Chen Yong waved at the commander of the United Fleet who had just arrived at the entrance and was about to pursue him. Then he went into the entrance without looking back, and entered the depths of the cliff sea. This scene made the opponent's teeth itch. Just entered. I saw a bright sea surface. Although it was within the range of the water vortex, the existence of the outer cliff sea area prevented the water vortex from affecting the interior, thus forming such a wonderful and peaceful scene. Looking into the eyes, it is like a fairyland. There are also densely populated resource islands, thousands of them, densely covered with stars. Brother Qi Qian, why don't we divide the army into 2 groups and see which one of us has better luck? Can we find the base island hidden here faster? Of course it's no problem, so let's do it according to our ability. Soon the large army will enter here, and there is not much time left for you and me. 2 people are greeting. Sudden, a notification from the manager of the Endless Sea rang in his ears. Congratulations to the Black Dragon Fleet for obtaining the base island, Thunder. Hereby announce. Congratulations to the Black Dragon Fleet for obtaining the base island, Thunder. Hereby announce. Congratulations to the Black Dragon Fleet for obtaining the base island, Thunder. Hereby announce. The ear of the person who heard 3 consecutive full-frequency broadcasts was numb. Did the Black Dragon Fleet acquire the base island? Everyone was amazed and full of shock. Congratulations to the Redbeard fleet for acquiring the base island, Flying Fish. Hereby announce. Congratulations to the Redbeard fleet for acquiring the base island, Flying Fish. Hereby announce. 3 more full-frequency announcements. The brains of the navigators who entered the stormy sea to hunt for treasure were numb. How long has it been? 2 fleets got the base island. In this case, of the 6 major fleets, 5 have already obtained the base area. Hearing this news, Chen Yong wasn't surprised. Getting those 2 base islands must be the result of a long-planned plan. Just like this Cliff Sea area, if it is not for the observation pattern day after day, year after year, it is not easy to enter the Cliff Sea area. Ha ha ha, it looks like someone is faster than us, I have to speed up too. Qi Qian laughed out loud, and the battleship under him had already shot out, reaching a high speed of 31 knots. It must have used some special skills. Chen Yong didn't hesitate. The Predator badge accelerated, the Golden Command Sword accelerated, and the Golden Charge skill was activated. Increases the speed bonus by 30% for 30 minutes. In this way, a 50% speed bonus is obtained, and the speed of the destroyer at 38 knots soars to 57 knots instantly. The 57th knot made Chen Yong really feel what is called sailing at sea. The underwater sonar scanned wildly, galloping all the way, splashing water, only a black shadow could be seen passing by in the darkness. No, this one is not. Although many islands look a lot like Base Island, they actually only look alike. When Chen Yong drove the high-speed destroyer across a lush, fruit island, he discovered an abnormal situation. Floating, hollow, abnormal quality. The ultrasonic signal fed back by the sonar shows that the island is extraordinary. Stop. Prepare to land on the island 10. Within 2 minutes, the destroyer docked precisely. Sure enough, as Chen Yong expected, this is indeed a base island. Congratulations Voyager, you found the base island, Harvest. Do you want to bind and occupy it? Yes. Without any hesitation, Chen Yong decided to make a decisive decision. Congratulations Voyager, you have successfully bound the base island, is it public? Yes. This time Chen Yong did not intend to hide it, especially after scanning the attributes of Harvest Base Island, he decisively chose to make it public. Congratulations to Chen Yong for winning the base island, Harvest. This announcement. Congratulations to Chen Yong for winning the base island, Harvest. This announcement. Congratulations to Chen Yong for winning the base island, Harvest. This announcement. 3 consecutive full-frequency broadcasts let the news spread throughout the entire Blue Sea in an instant. The new people rushed to tell each other, overjoyed. The 6 fleets blushed with anger, wishing they could take Chen Yong out of the cliff waters and beat him to death right now. The attitudes of all parties are different, some are envious, some are dismissive. But this does not prevent Chen Yong from reaping the joy of the second base island. Level 1 Base Island, Harvest upgradable. Length, 3,005 meters. Width, 2058 meters. Constant floating height, 6.2 meters. Special attributes. Shipbuilding speed increased by 15%. Shipbuilding material consumption reduced by 15%. Increase the number of ships built by 15%. Great Sea tax reduced by 15%. Special skill. Harvest Festival. Harvest Festival. After the skill is activated, the island will produce a variety of fruits and grains in large quantities. Duration. 6 hours, cooling time for 1 week. Special building. Supply shipyard. Supply shipyard. Will be able to manufacture specialized supply ships at this shipyard. The ship can also be sent to the shipyard to be converted into a professional supply ship. Upgrade experience. 0.001. Obviously, Harvest Island is a complete supply island. Its area is much larger than Shenyang Island. With this island, it is basically impossible to starve to death. A special skill once a week is enough to ensure the food supply of hundreds of thousands of sailors. If it is upgraded, the food output will only be more. In addition, the special shipyard allows Chen Yong to finally build supply ships. With a supply ship, more ammunition, food, and fuel can be carried to ensure combat capability. It is convenient to exchange directly with the system, but one word, expensive. If you want sustainable development, building various steel factories, shell factories, and smelting factories is the only way you must go in the future. This harvest island came just in time, and solved his urgent need. While Chen Yang was leisurely visiting his fruit island, the fourth reminder sounded today. Congratulations to the New Century Fleet for obtaining the base island, Rejuvenation. Hereby announce. Congratulations to the New Century Fleet for obtaining the base island, Rejuvenation. Hereby announce. It's that guy Qiqian. He actually found it. Chen Yang couldn't help but ran to the edge of the base island and looked up. Under the moonlight, an island emitting a faint green light in the distance attracted his attention. The two base islands are actually only 10 kilometers apart. Congratulations, Brother Qiqian, you have successfully obtained your own base island. The voice was connected, and Chen Yang's compliment came over. Brother Chen Yang, you are welcome. I was able to find this Rejuvenation Island because I have seen its description in historical documents. It will emit green light on the night of the full moon. Brother Chen Yang, it's really surprising that you were able to find the base island so quickly. Could you tell me the secret? Chen Yang smiled on the surface, despising this guy in his heart, as long as there is a truth in your mouth. Ha ha ha, it's just good luck. I don't have any other skills. To be honest, in terms of luck, I still have a little bit of confidence. Okay, Brother Qiqian, since we have found the two bases, let's say goodbye. After all, I still have a bunch of followers behind me. After all, Chen Yang planned to collect the base island and leave here. Brother Chen Yang, 8 of the 10 base islands have been released. I believe that it will not be long before 10 of them will become owners. At that time, the gate will appear again, and the Azure City, which hides the biggest secret in the Azure Sea region, is waiting for you. Everyone who is destined. At that time, I hope you and I will still be partners. After all, one more friend means more strength, doesn't it? Chen Yang did not refute. If so, then we will follow what Brother Qiqian said, and cooperate with Happy Medicine. Voice just fell. Chen Yang has put away his Harvest Island. The vibrant inverted triangle island has the same shape as Shenyang Island. Boom boom boom. At this time, columns of water tens of meters high exploded 100 meters away from the Chen Yang destroyer. Immediately after, cannonballs kept coming. Looking back, it was dark, and nearly 100 ironclad ships stood above the sea level. Under the bright moonlight, the flags of the 6 major fleets were full of murderous intent. Find the little thief Chen Yang. All warships open fire freely, and destroy the little thief Chen Yang. You are the thief, and your whole family is a thief. Chen Yang let out a strange cry, and hurriedly drove the destroyer away. I still have about 5 minutes to accelerate by 30%, so I can't waste it. In the eyes of everyone, the 2,500-ton destroyer ran out of a huge U-shape on the sea surface, completed the sea drift, and then headed east all the way, disappearing from everyone's sight in just a few minutes. Their artillery shooting accuracy is limited. Beyond 5 kilometers, the artillery accuracy is almost zero. He could only watch helplessly as the rabbit-like Chen Yang escaped out of range. Ran. The commander rubbed his eyes, suddenly feeling regretful. He originally thought that there was an ambush by Chen Yang around him, so he proceeded cautiously to test it out. He never thought that there was really only Chen Yang with 1 man and 1 ship here. Where are the ambushes? If you want to pursue it again, it is already too late. Chasing, chase me. Just when the United Fleet was groaning and chasing Chen Yang with full horsepower. Chen Yang has escaped safely from another exit in the Cliff Sea area. It was like a little wild cat that successfully sneaked, licked the corner of its mouth, and at the same time gave orders to the fleet outside. Prepare for firepower coverage. I will transmit the coordinates to the fleet, and let the group of ironclad ships that are chasing after them taste the taste of shells. Voice just fell. 2.2 The roar of artillery in the distance can be heard clearly from several miles away. Because it is a fixed target, just stare at the exit and attack, so the shooting accuracy has been improved by more than 1 level. These ironclad warships just chased them out, and they came face to face with crazy shells screaming with death. Back, back, the commander yelled, but it is easy to come out and difficult to go back. Behind you is the sea area densely covered with cliffs. You can choose to be killed by shells or hit a rock and sink by yourself. The menacing armored fleet panicked all of a sudden and became a mess in an instant. For a time, there were countless people who were shot, hit the rocks, and crashed into the cliffs on the sea. completely lost the sense of the past. The explosion disturbed the underwater fluorescent jellyfish, and the jellyfish dived to escape one after another, and the surrounding waterway disappeared. Completely plunged into a state of darkness. Just under 10 minutes. Nearly 100 ironclad ships were all destroyed. The 10th day of the Sea of Storms. Chen Yang, who was rushing to the center of the Sea of Storms while collecting resources on the road, received the news that the last resource island had been taken under his command. In this way, all 10 base islands are alive. They are Fortress, Abyss, Tianxiang, Shenyang, Thunder, Flying Fish, Harvest, Rejuvenation, Guard, Craftsman. Each of the 10 islands has its own special meaning, so the special skills and special shipyards carried by each base island are also different. It's just that the people who won the last 2 base islands made Chen Yang unexpected. He originally thought that the Morning Star Fleet, the tail of the 6 major fleets, would be able to secure a quota, but he never thought that the Morning Star Fleet would be seized by a large fleet named Blood River. Chen Yang knew about the Blood River Fleet. In the past 10 years, he has always been the most powerful big ship group, until Qiqian made a strong entry 2 years ago. As one of the very few newcomers who survived the cruel selection of the Novice Channel, the hatred for the 7th Fleet was also planted from that time. Therefore, because of the rise of Qiqian, such a powerful and established force as Zue cannot be denied. Chen Yang also tried to find the 3rd base island, but Qiqian warned him that according to the rules of the Blue Sea, each person can only get 2 base islands at most. Even if you encounter the 3rd one, the base island will automatically avoid it and refresh to other places. At the beginning, Chen Yang didn't believe in evil, and dozens of destroyers pulled a net to search with sonar. The target was successfully scanned several times, but as soon as it got close, the island disappeared without a trace. After several repetitions, Chen Yang gave up completely. The ownership of the last 10th island is beyond Chen Yang's expectations. Because the one who got the 10th island is the newcomer from their Blue Star, Edward. The voyagers from the old Sea Power Empire are finally favored by the heavens. According to him, he was on his way when an island appeared out of thin air and fell in front of him. Chen Yang's nose twisted when he heard the news. You must know that at that time, I sent dozens of destroyers to chase after me, but they didn't win. In the end, this little boy took advantage of him. In this regard, the ownership of the 10 base islands has been completely settled. Lucky navigators in the Blue Sea area, congratulations on successfully collecting 10 base islands. A blue door will appear in the center of the Sea of Storms in a day. Please go there as soon as possible to open the door to the Blue Secret Realm. The announcement sounded in my ears again. It's just that this announcement is not for all channels, or it means that only the 9 voyagers who have obtained the base island can hear the announcement. Azure Gate, Azure Secret Realm. It seems that the location of the Azure City is located in the Secret Realm. Chen Yang touched his chin and said something to himself. He lowered his head and glanced at the nautical chart. Now, at the fastest speed, it only takes less than a day. According to the intelligence, calculating the positions of the 6 major fleets, it will take 2 days for them to arrive at the fastest, that is to say. Chen Yang slapped the table fiercely, startling Xiaolu who was doing her homework. Since that's the case, let's make a conclusion. He raised his head and searched for Orf's figure. Little Green, where is your grandpa? Go and inspect the engine room. It's not like you don't know, the old man can't stay idle at all. Chen Yang ran out the door thumping, leaving behind a dazed Little Green. After one day, Chen Yang, who tried his best to rush to the center of the Sea of Storms, was stunned. The mighty fleet ahead was waiting here early. Who else is there besides the 6 major fleets? Looking into the eyes are full of old acquaintances. Bai Song with a face full of ruthlessness and hatred, Lan Hao who is arrogant, indifferent and contemptuous of everything, and Black Dragon with a face of rebellion and nose upturned. The captains of the 6 fleets gathered together and waited here early. Ahead, the mighty united fleet is over 100,000. White sails spread across the sea like feathers. Among the sailing battleships, there are hidden iron-clad ships with hideous shapes. Following an order, they drove out in an orderly arrangement puffing black smoke. There are as many as 2,000 ships. It's not over yet. The steel fortresses with a length of 200 meters, a width of 200 meters and a height of 50 meters attracted Chen Yang's attention. These bronze-colored battle forts have broad floating chassis. Divided into 3 floors, each floor has more than 18 cannons. Roughly estimated, they are all cannons with a caliber exceeding 350 millimeters. Although the diameter is slightly smaller and the range is not far enough, the lethality is absolutely sufficient. There are more than 30 such huge bronze-colored fortresses, which look full of deterrence, like indestructible castles on the sea. Buzz buzz. There was a strange sound. Look up. Hundreds of giant airships covering the sky and the sun are suspended above the fleet. In the exposed pod, heavy bombs reflect cold murderous intent. This is only what Chen Yang can see on the bright side, and there are more threats hidden in the shadows that his own eyes cannot see. For example, a submarine that has been scanned by its own submarine sonar. Those hidden behind those sailing warships stared at Chen Yang's small torpedo boat like a poisonous snake. Even the densely packed heavy mines in the seawater flanking the joint fleet. These new equipment should all come from special factories on the base island. Chen Yang's iron fleet docked at a distance of 20 kilometers from the United Fleet, just stuck at his own limit shooting distance. Beep beep. It turned out to be the voice that Bai Song took the initiative to send. Chen Yang, you are finally here, the grievances between you and me will be settled today, don't run away if you have the ability. Hear this. Chen Yang snorted. You also have the face to say that it is between you and me. If you fight, and you bring so many people, do you really think I am stupid? The opposite party ignored Chen Yang's sarcasm, but smiled triumphantly. You never thought that we would reach the heart of the storm 130 times faster than you. Look at this natural battlefield, which is just right to be your graveyard. Bai Song opened his hands with a look of arrogance. Strange to say, the entire sea of storms is a huge vortex, only the center is a piece of calm water. Chen Yang ignored it with cold eyes. He knew that the Yinyan fleet must have used some special means that he did not know. Or, teleport, but if you want to transfer these 100,000 warships from one point to another in a short period of time, the consumption will be sky high. If this is the case, it can only show that the 6 major fleets have made up their minds to unite and kill themselves. Even if you don't hesitate to use your background. Chen Yang raised his right hand and was about to retreat, but found that the surrounding storm suddenly rose. The violent wind cut off the fleet's retreat. Chen Yang, little fool, don't try to run away, I told you, you will definitely die today. Bai Song roared. I'll go, does this old fool have magic tricks? Can he summon wind and rain? Just when Chen Yang was wondering, the administrator's voice came from the sky. The owners of the 10 base islands have arrived, and the Azure Gate is about to open, everyone please get ready. Before Chen Yang realized what happened, he felt the 2 base islands behind him suddenly fly up uncontrollably. Fortunately, Chen Yang had quick eyesight and quick hands, and grabbed them, which prevented them from flying away. The 2 base islands suddenly became radiant, and 2 beams of light shot up into the sky, sinking into the whirling vortex. The speed visible to the naked eye of the vortex became larger. Not only his base island, but also other people's base islands flew out uncontrollably. The strong wind distorted the surrounding air, and the originally calm sea suddenly turned into a stormy sea. Anchor. Orf decisively issued an order to let all the fleet break down on the spot. Just as the clattering sound of chains fell, huge waves tens of meters high hit in an instant. Fortunately, there is the stability of the anchor, holding on to the huge hull, otherwise it would be difficult to maintain stability in the chaotic waves. To be honest, Chen Yang didn't expect that he would be the last one to arrive. Look up. In the western waters on the right, a distorted skull image is engraved on the blood-red sail. There are tens of thousands of warships, including nearly 100 ironclad ships. You don't need to guess to know that this is the so-called Blood River Fleet. Being able to appear here at this time already shows that the Blood River Fleet and the 6th Fleet are accomplices who wear a pair of trousers. Well, it doesn't matter if there are too many lice, 6 or 7 are all the same to him anyway. He turned his head and looked at the eastern sea area on his left. Hundreds of ironclad ships were floating in the sea, and the flag of the Empire was fluttering in the rain when the sun never set. He didn't need to guess who it was. Edward, have you betrayed me, Blue Star? Don't forget, you are also a rookie. Chen Yang narrowed his eyes and snorted coldly. Captain Chen Yang, don't talk about rebellion or non-rebellion. The sun never sets. Empire voyagers have always believed in the strong. Also, I will help whoever offers the highest price. Of course, if you are willing to pay 3 times the price, I can also consider standing on your side. Edward had a natural expression on his face, or in his opinion, this was a normal choice. 3 times. Ha, for a blue star trash like you, I don't even bother to win over 3 nautical coins. A guy who counts his ancestors and forgets his classics is not worth it at all. Upon hearing this, Edward became angry. Chen Yang, don't think that you will become a newcomer king after a few compliments. If you don't die, how can we newcomers have a bright future? I have already told the 6 major fleets about the weaknesses of these warships of yours. This sea area today is your burial place. I, Charles Edward, inherit the nobility, and I will usher in a new era of my own. Chen Yang smiled instead of anger. This is what you really think. You are worthy of being a descendant of robbers and bandits. It's really a dog who can't change it and eats shit. Vr. Chen Yang hung up the communication. He knew that this battle was inevitable, and he had already made psychological preparations. On the opposite side of the Allied alliance, although he didn't see that guy Qi Qian, he must be hiding somewhere, ready to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. Orf, pull out the anchor and get ready to fight. This time, let's let them understand what a real naval battle is. Yes. Orf saluted and roared, trembling with excitement. The whole ship lifts anchor, and everyone enters the battle position. At the same time, Chen Yang opened his hands, no longer hiding his true strength. Come down, my fleet. Growling, pale blue light quickly outlines the rough sea. Powerful and domineering warships of different shapes took shape in midair. Bang! The battleship plunged into the water, smashing the oncoming waves. 10 ships, 20 ships, 3,000 ships too. A total of 120 large warships, including 70 König-class ships and 50 Derfflinger-class battle cruisers. It's not over yet. Following the previous build of 150 Type 5 destroyers, Chen Yang added another 100 newest Fletcher-class destroyers. Immediately after, a full 250 destroyers were called out. Densely packed, the steam is arranged around the huge battleship team. And finally the submarine. In order to cope with this naval battle, Chen Yang was not stingy, and ordered 100 ships early. These U-2A type submarines that are directly summoned underwater are like ferocious wolves rushing towards the target as soon as they are summoned. Even if the sea is rough, the water is still peaceful, which is very suitable for submarine attack. In an instant, Chen Yang's fleet expanded several times. This is what Chen Yang has today, a truly modern fleet. Faced with the hundreds of warships that suddenly appeared on Chen Yang's side, the 6 major fleets were also a little confused. What kind of ability does this guy have? Can he summon warships from the void? Or did he rob so many warships with blueprints on the spot? Chen Yang, this little fool actually has a second hand. Bai Song clenched his fists tightly, making a crackling sound. The black dragon next to him dismissed it. HMPH, what are you afraid of? It's just a few hundred advanced warships. We already know the strengths and weaknesses of these warships from some new people. Now that the battlefield is limited and the retreat is cut off, it is equivalent to cutting off the 2 legs of the thief Chen Yang. I suggest that the fleet approach him directly, fight him at close quarters, or even engage in a side-to-side battle, and capture his advanced warships. Beside, Lan Hao is also a decisive person. With a wave of his right hand, the whole army strikes. Hundreds of thousands of warships rushed towards Chen Yang's fleet with a roaring roar. Here, Orf and Chen Yang each control a flagship for 2-line command. W-50V type destroyers stepped forward, delineated the center line, and threw out all the mines that could be thrown to prevent the enemy from charging in groups. Quote, other V-type destroyers pay attention to vigilance. If they find the torpedo boat hidden by the enemy Fang Yin, they will destroy it as soon as possible. Don't save me the floating sonar, just throw it out for me and keep an eye on the water. Let me spread out all the Fletcher destroyers, protect the flanks of the fleet, keep an eye on the airships in the sky for me. As long as they come into range, I will shoot them all down. Orf also quickly issued various orders. The King-class battleship is in the first position, ready to seize the T prefix, and the cruiser will take the initiative to attack me, threatening the enemy fleet from the side and distracting the attention of the opponent's large fleet. All submarines are on standby, searching for enemy submarines and high-value targets, ready to hunt freely. A series of orders were issued, and nearly 500 warships moved quickly. Although the 500 battleships are a bit thin compared to the 100,000 battleships on the opposite side, the money paid is not weaker than the combined fleet in front of us in terms of tonnage and deterrence. The momentum is even more majestic. Amidst the thunder and lightning flashes, one after another ferocious battleships slowly erected their gun barrels, adjusting their direction in the huge waves. This battle, both sides tried their best and there was no way out. There is nothing but death in victory. On the opposite side, Edward suddenly felt a little regretful. He didn't expect that Chen Yang's strength was far more than what he saw on the surface. It turned out that there were only dozens of battleships and 10 cruisers, which made him bet on the 6 fleets without hesitation. However, he was slapped in the face in an instant. "Captain Edward, what should we do now? Do we really want to fight Chen Yang? The 6th Fleet just issued an order to let us stand in front. This is to make us cannon fodder." Edward's expression also changed several times, and he couldn't make up his mind for a long time. When he reacted, it was too late to return, and he was pushed forward abruptly by the huge fleet behind him. On the swaying battlecruiser, Chen Yang stood in the command room like a steel statue. Xiao Lu's eyes widened behind her, looking at the stormy sea outside. Boom, boom, boom. It was no longer clear who fired the gun first. In an instant, the dark sea was illuminated by the flames of the explosion. For the first time, the shocking scene of hundreds of battleships firing thousands of guns is shown in this ancient blue sea. Artillery radar has a unique advantage in this dark sky. When the enemy has not yet entered the range, it starts to launch long-range strikes beyond the line of sight. 50 times the diameter of 305 mm, with a limit range of more than 20 kilometers. The densely packed 100,000 warships on the opposite side don't need precise aiming at all, only need to cover the design. Give me all the sailing warships, pay attention to the distance. As long as Chen Yang's cannonballs are exhausted, the victory will belong to our joint fleet. Lan Hao is not stupid, and he doesn't intend to do his best in the first place. At the forefront are tens of thousands of sailing warships. With the help of the vortex wind, the speed of the ships is not slow. At the same time, he manipulated those war fortresses to launch a counterattack. The cannons rumbled, and the 350 cannons were not small at all, and they also had a limit range of more than 8 kilometers. The shells are coming, prepare for the impact. The sailing battleship rushing to the forefront issued a panic reminder. In the next second, shells fell from the sky like a storm. Each salvo consists of thousands of shells, completely covering a certain area, and it is inevitable. Rumble. In an instant, a sea of flames erupted in the entire sea area, and when this piece of shells fell, all beings were equal, and everything was reduced to ashes in the burning flames and raging waves. In this salvo, at least hundreds of warships were hit, and the sinking rate reached an astonishing 90%. The fragile small body of the wooden sailboat could not withstand the bombardment of any heavy artillery. People can't help but sigh, "My lord, times have changed." No one was shocked by the terrifying firepower. Immediately after, the shells are loaded. A second salvo rang out. On the dark sea surface, one can see flying fire meteors across a long arc, spanning a long distance of more than 10 kilometers, and precisely smashing into the fleet cluster. In this volley, hundreds of sailing warships were sunk, and the ignited fire affected many warships. The wooden boat lacks the necessary fire protection capabilities, and its fatal flaws are undoubtedly exposed at this moment. However, these sail warships are consumables, and the United Fleet doesn't care about attrition at all. They are only used to consume the cannon fodder of Chen Yang's shells. Used to cover the approach of large troops. The decisive battle between the two sides begins when they actually reach the center line, AF. Just when the two sides were in full swing to launch a decisive battle. Comm suddenly lights up. Click on the red label, and the familiar name will pop up. Hey, long time no see, Sister Bingxia, do you miss me? Chen Yang, I haven't contacted me for so long after going back, did I forget to warm up after having a new love? Artist. My aunt, if you don't come early or late, why not send me a message at this time, I'm in a decisive battle. Decisive battle. The 7 fleets in the Blue Sea. And, what aunt? Is the young girl Nian Fang okay? I have to be cautious when they gather 100,000 warships to deal with me. If you have nothing to do, we will talk about it later. Don't, do you need Miss Ben's help? My third fleet has been vacated, and I can send it to help you at any time. Are you so kind? Look at what you said. We are hardcore allies who have friendship in times of need. So what? The employment price is negotiable. Let's count you an ironclad ship with 100,000 nautical coins. Of course, the transmission fee is at your own expense. Not interested in. After finishing speaking, Chen Yang was about to hang up the communication. Report to the commander. The front sonar has found that there are enemy submarines dispatched underwater. Reporting to the commander. The enemy airships are flying in 2 ways from the side to facilitate our fleet. Chen Yang decisively issued the order. The anti-submarine deep water mines and depth charges are ready for me. The sonar is fully turned on, and the submarine force, capture these submarines for me. Facing the airship, Chen Yang was not afraid. The Fletcher-class anti-aircraft destroyer will not allow it to enter the air defense circle of the battleship. The girl on the opposite side still did not give up and continued to send messages. Tell me the truth, has the Azure Gate of your Azure Sea region been opened? How do you know? To be honest, Chen Yang really didn't expect her to know such a secret. Then, he felt his mouth goosebumps again. Quickly add a sentence. This is none of your business. Who says it's none of my business? Back then, my grandfather had done many years of research on the legendary treasures of the Azure Sea, and I have a lot of information about the Azure City. You want to send this information to me? Send it to you. You want to fart? I just have one condition. When you enter the Azure Gate, bring me one, and I will share a share. Chen Yang didn't affirm or deny, but sent me a sentence for me to think about it for a few minutes. Hang up in a blink of an eye and continue to fight. From his point of view, whether he can enter the Azure Gate or not is something to be discussed. At this stage, he must find a way to defeat the United Fleet in front of him. Orf, I'm afraid it's not good to fight like this, so I decided to take the initiative. Take the initiative, Captain, don't mess around. Orf was taken aback. Don't worry, the 6th Fleet thinks the same way. He is sure that we will fight defensively, but I just want to give them a surprise. Voice just fell. Chen Yang has already led dozens of Derflinger-class cruisers to rush out, with full power, and attacking from the side. See Chen Yang attacking. The United Fleet on the opposite side immediately changed its formation, and tens of thousands of sailing warships were separated to meet them proactively. Not only that, there are many small torpedo boats hidden in the sailing warship. Although these torpedo boats look small and harmless, they are indeed piranhas full of fangs, ready to strike fiercely at any time. Chen Yang commanded the cruiser to launch an attack from a distant direction, with the purpose of disrupting the deployment and planning of the combined fleet. As expected, at least 1/3 of the warships were attracted. The submarine force is ready to attack. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Chen Yang is going to stage a play that directly hits Wanglong. The target is the flagship of the 6 major fleets. They are well hidden and are closely guarded at the rear of the fleet. Chen Yang knew that it would be very difficult to destroy the flagships of the 6 major fleets in one fell swoop, but he only needed to deter the opponent, destroy their morale, and regain the initiative. While at the same time, the opponent's submarine also moved. Although these submarines born in the special factory on the base island are not as good as U-2A submarines, they are enough to be called killers in the sea in this era. It has always been the absolute trump card of the Moon Fleet, and very few of them are now in the public eye of the Blue Sea. This time, in order to deal with Chen Yang, they dispatched all their strength, with hundreds of submarines approaching Chen Yang's fleet like ghosts from under the deep sea. Chapter 71. Facing enemy submarines, Chen Yang was well prepared. Isn't the purpose of building so many destroyers as to guard against these terrible underwater killers? Underwater sonar has long discovered these submarines attacking from 100 meters underwater. Its engine can't compare with the quiet effect of the U-2A submarine, and it can hear the noise like a tractor resounding through the entire ocean from a distance. Dozens of anti-submarine destroyers slowly started their engines, smelling the smell, and rushed towards the submarines. At this time, in the combat command room behind the United Fleet, everyone is very satisfied with the current offensive rhythm. Although the loss of cannon fodder was huge, nearly 3,000 sailing warships were lost in less than 20 minutes. But this is nothing to the mighty 100,000 cannon fodder. HMPH, Chen Yang, this little thief is now trying to attack our fleet from the flank, but we don't know that we have already prepared, so we guard against his attack. Bai Song was quite proud, as if victory was just around the corner. With the command and leadership of Boss Lan Hao, we will surely win the final victory. The Black Dragon next to him also took the opportunity to compliment. Lan Hao stared at the combat situation map in front of him, and looked at the moon beside him. Moon, get your submarine force ready to attack and surprise this kid. The moon chuckled. Don't worry, the submarine force has been dispatched, everyone just wait for the salute to go off. At this time, a person hurriedly broke into the war room. It's not good, Captain Moon. The moon with a slightly changed face glared at the other party. Why are you panicking? What's the matter? Tell me quickly. The opponent lowered his head, not daring to look up at the moon in front of him. Our submarine force touched a deep water mine just after crossing the center line, and sank dozens of ships on the spot. The destroyers on the opposite side seemed to have a pair of underwater eyes, chasing our submarine and throwing depth charges. Our submarine suffered heavy losses. What? Moon's complexion changed suddenly, and he grabbed the opponent's collar. How many submarines do we have? No. Less than 30 ships. The moon staggered and almost fell to the ground. It was the Redbeard behind her who supported her, so that the moon did not let her embarrassed side be staged here. Withdraw. Quickly withdraw the remaining submarines. These submarines are all her property, and they must not be wiped out in this place. When the others heard the news, their faces were full of frost. They didn't expect Chen Yang to have such a trick. Wait, I seem to have heard from those newcomers that Chen Yang may also have a submarine. The last time Lakawa was beheaded, it must be Chen Yang's submarine that fired a torpedo to sink him. When Bai Song said this, everyone was shocked. Boom. At this moment, a violent explosion sounded less than 1 kilometer away from the command ship. After a dozen torpedoes were fired from a war fortress, the ammunition compartment exploded, turning into a huge fireball. This scene made all the captains terrified for a while. The heart is placed on the fortress of Zan. After all, the thick armor can withstand the bombardment of the enemy's heavy artillery. But they didn't expect that the real threat came from underwater. The weak underwater armor of the war fortress became a fatal flaw, and they were dragged into the bottomless abyss by Chen Yang's submarine. Attention all ships, there are submarines that have sneaked under our fleet, find them for me. For a while, all kinds of searchlights were lit up, directing the sea water, intending to use these lights to find the submarine floating in the sea. Look, what's that? It's a torpedo. Avoid it. The hull of this heavy ironclad ship twisted rapidly, and the body of nearly 8,000 tons was not flexible enough after all. Or the driver has no experience in dodging torpedoes at all. Before he could turn around completely, he was hit by a torpedo, breaking a big hole in the waterline armor. All the crew members had only one thought: it's over. Boom. The 533mm torpedo broke the keel of this heavy ironclad ship and sank quickly. These elusive submarines equipped with active sonar are like wolves in a calm ambush, madly attacking those ironclad ships hiding in the rear from all directions. Shoot! Shoot me! Sink that sub! Boom boom boom. 10 U-2A submarines that were too late to dive in a row were blown into two on the spot. Before I had time to be happy, 2 more torpedoes struck one after the other. Left full rudder. Hurry up! The commander let out a hoarse growl. I can't wait to install 10 more propellers on my boat. After finally avoiding the torpedo, it hit an ironclad ship behind it that was trying to avoid the torpedo. The result was that the propeller was hit on the spot and lost power. Fools in front, why don't you block the torpedo yourself? Why let it kill us? Voice just fell. The torpedo that makes up the knife is coming. Everyone abandon ship and flee. There is no possibility of rescuing an ironclad ship that has lost its power, and there is only one way to save itself. The ironclad ships continued to sink, and the captains felt pain in their eyes when they saw them. These are all their coffin books. Now, in just a few minutes, hundreds of ironclad ships have sunk into the sea. Their original destination was the main force in the decisive battle with Chen Yang's Grand Fleet. But I never thought that the war had just begun, and the losses had been heavy. Blood River, Where are the others in Blood River? We need his deep water mines here. Lan Hao suddenly remembered the Blood River fleet. The voice of Zue came from the communication side. Captain Lan Hao, it's not that I don't want to provide more sea mines, but that my Blood River fleet is weak and has no resources to manufacture more sea mines. You see. Zero. Snapped. The grumpy black dragon slapped the table. Zue, what time is it? You still want to save your family property. To put it bluntly, if we lose, Zue will end up the same. Zue on the opposite side was unmoved at all. Then there is no way. A clever woman can't cook without rice. I can't conjure it out of thin air, can I? Blood River, I warn you, don't push yourself. The black dragon roared. All right. Lan Hao stopped the impulsive black dragon and picked up the microphone. Zue, the resources you need are covered by my 6 fleets, and the extra 30% is considered as your reward. Of course, I want you to create at least 30,000 deep water mines in the shortest possible time to block these arrogant submarines. That's right. If that's the case, then I would like to thank Captain Lan Hao for his generosity. Give me an hour to ensure that enough mines are produced. Hearing this, Hailong almost exploded with anger. This is clearly stock. How could it be possible to produce 30,000 mines in an hour? Lan Hao waved his hand at him, saying that this was just a stopgap measure. To be honest, the 6 major fleets have no good countermeasures against Chen Yang's U-2A submarines. Before sonar was invented, this submarine was called the Ghost in the Sea. Those searchlights illuminated the sea surface like daylight, but it was difficult to find the submarine that dived into the deep water. When the lights move elsewhere, they float up again and attack 4. His own submarine tactics played very well, and the submarine force achieved fruitful results, but Chen Yang was not satisfied. Submarine tactics lie in their concealment and surprise. Once it is discovered and the enemy is on guard, it will be difficult to work again. Just now Chen Yang gambled whether he could go straight to Wonglong and sink the opponent's flagship. But obviously he made a wrong bet. The opponent's flagship was not set up on a rough-skinned and thick-skinned war fortress. It is still hidden today. With the lessons learned from Lakawa, these people are afraid that they will not show up easily again. At this time, there was a hum in the sky. It was Bai Song's airship unit that was dispatched. Cooperating with it is the impact of tens of thousands of sailing warships, and the opponent does not seem to intend to continue to consume, preparing for the final decisive battle. Shish! Screaming bombs fell from the sky and splashed on the sea like a net. The opponent was very smart about and used bombs to clear the shallow water mines that Chen Yang had placed on the center line before. These mines were specially used to withstand the impact of the opponent's large fleet, and now a hole was torn open by the airship bomb, and the mighty sailing warship rushed across the center line without looking back. After clearing the mines on the center line, the airship force continued to advance towards Chen Yang's fleet. The reason to act now is because of the impact of the storm ahead. Just now, the storm finally stopped, and a blue frame like a heavenly gate appeared in the sky. Dreamlike, full of mystery. This did not stop the determination of the two sides to fight, but the war became more and more fierce. Looking at the formation of almost the entire army of the 6 major fleets attacking, Chen Yang is no longer hiding. A huge V-shaped offensive has quietly taken shape. Under such a formation, all battleships can meet the enemy with full firepower. Use the strongest artillery fire to crush all the enemy's attacks. Give up passive defense and choose to attack actively. As for the airship in the sky, the wicked have their own grind. Dozens of Fletcher-class destroyers were born for them. When the dense anti-aircraft fire illuminated the sky, Edward, who was hesitating whether to take the opportunity to escape, sat down on the deck. He thought these airships would do a lot of damage to Chen Yang, who lacked air defenses. But he never thought that Chen Yang had already prepared anti-aircraft destroyers and was just waiting for these airships to enter the field. In an instant, black airships in the sky were blown up into huge fireballs. The hydrogen infused in the airship is inherently flammable and explosive. Although it has a compartment design, it can effectively resist the attack of ordinary bullets. But facing the bombardment of 127mm anti-aircraft guns, it is not much thicker than a thin-skinned egg. Dozens of Fletchers formed a powerful air defense network, and tracer bombs illuminated the dark sky. Boom! Another airship was blown up in the air before it could turn around. Some airships intend to quickly lift into the air to avoid the anti-aircraft machine guns, but the bulky size makes this process doomed to be extremely long. In the command room, Bai Song's face was terribly sinister, with many white hairs growing on his forehead. At this moment, the gray hair seems to be more. There was no sound in the command room, and everyone was staring at the destroyer fleet that poured out the air defense net with firepower all over the sky. These small steel ships finally showed their due combat effectiveness. Boom boom boom. Chen Yang's battleship fleet began to roar again. As the last airship in the middle of the ocean turned into a huge fireball and fell into the sea, less than a third of the remaining airships chose to flee back to the base camp. Without the threat from the air, these battleships have no scruples and go out to the people with all their strength. This time the main and secondary guns were fully fired. The fighting power of the battleship with all main guns shocked the entire Blue Sea at this moment. More than 100 warships fired at full force, and with a single salvo, more than a few hundred sailing warships on the opposite side were turned into fly ash. A few volleys caused the mighty white sail battle group to be torn crookedly. The sailors of the United Fleet could only hear the continuous roar. Shelling, explosions, flares. It became the only keynote of this naval battle destined to be recorded in the history of the Blue Sea. Not long, combined fleet morale began to crumble. Because they came, these steel behemoths with an average tonnage of more than 20,000 tons rolled over with murderous aura, crossed the center line without fear, and crushed all the broken wood wreckage in front of them. The torpedo boats that were supposed to attack Chen Yang's fleet in the hidden sail warships lost their protection and became the targets of the destroyers. Fight destroyers with torpedo boats. It's like lighting a lamp in the toilet, courting death. The destroyers' rapid-fire guns and high speed made it impossible for the torpedo boat to lock and was sunk. The Fletcher destroyer took the initiative to chase and kill them with their abnormal speed. The equipped rapid-fire guns and anti-aircraft guns have become the strongest killers for sniping torpedo boats. Unable to fight and fail to fight, unable to run and run, these killers prepared for Chen Yang were easily cracked by these ferocious sea guards. Wait, I surrender, I surrender. The first person who couldn't hold back was none other than Edward, who regretted the war. His fleet was taken care of by Chen Yang, and each ship was named. When they came, there were hundreds of ironclad ships and thousands of sailing warships. Now there are only dozens of broken ships left, flying the white flag high. Chen Yang, I was wrong. For the sake of us being colleagues of Blue Star, please spare my dog's life. I, Edward, am willing to follow your example in the future. As a slave, please don't kill me. Facing the tearful Edward, Chen Yang could only sneer. If the 6 major fleets had the upper hand in this war, I'm afraid this guy would find ways to kill himself and claim credit for those masters. Chen Yang connected Orf's radio. Old man, what should we do with this guy? After all, he is also a member of your clan. Orf was very firm. This kind of traitor, even if he is from the same clan as me, is still a traitor. This kind of traitor, don't kill it, keep it for stew. Chen Yang laughed. Since that's the case, let's take him as a traitor first. Fire. Chen Yang roared, and the fleet fired a salvo, giving Edward the highest level of courtesy. On deck, looking at the shells falling overwhelmingly, Edward panicked and his body became weak. He knew that everything was over. I gambled all my life, but I didn't expect to lose here. He suddenly thought of those little Zyba who had just come to the Blue Sea region and joined the enemy. What happened in the end is obvious to all. He suddenly felt regretful, but it was too late. Flames from the explosion overwhelmed his fleet. Amidst the flames soaring into the sky, a resource island glowing with metallic luster flew out, and flew towards the hands of Chen Yang, who was using the plundering skill. Very good, the third base island. As soon as Chen Yang grasped the base island named Artisan, information about the island flooded into his mind. Not so much a craftsman as a repairman. This island can produce special repair ships, regardless of size of warships, can be repaired. Although it has no combat effectiveness, its auxiliary ability is very good. After tidying up Edward, Chen Yang raised his head and fixed his sight on the United Fleet ahead. Standing on the high sword island, Chen Yang has a cold and majestic face. Pale lightning illuminated his resolute face, like a statue of steel and iron, guiding the fleet ahead to the final decisive battle. Old dog Baisong, Lan Hao, I'm here for the decisive battle you want, so don't be cowardly. Afraid you won't succeed. Either you die today, or I die. Unable to bear it any longer, Bai Song, who boarded the top of the command ship, looked at Chen Yang across the sea with a murderous look on his face. The sharp eyes of both sides seemed to cross the distant sea area and collided fiercely in the air. Chen Yang's fleet has crossed the center line one after another, marching forward indomitable and unstoppable. Like pulling a net, it ignores all threats ahead and destroys them all. Blood River, why hasn't his mine arrived yet? Hailong cursed, the loss just now made him very unhappy. Don't worry about mines, even if they are manufactured now, there is no time to deploy them. Lan Hao squinted his eyes, staring at the battle chart in front of him. The key to the end of the war is not in our fleet, but in him. I saw Lan Hao pointing at the Chen Yang fleet that was launching an offensive. Chen Yang, Lan Hao 05 boss, what do you mean? Hailong said he was a little confused and couldn't understand. The current situation is not good for us. Lan Hao glanced at the 4 captains below, and continued. Although our warships are large in number and large in scale, in terms of firepower and combat effectiveness, they are simply not comparable to Chen Yang's fleet. I believe everyone has seen clearly that the war has developed to this level. No matter who wins or loses, they will pay a huge price for it. The captains below are all human beings, how can they not understand Lan Jia's implication? If the fight continues, their joint fleet will undoubtedly lose. The moon next to him hesitated. But boss Lan Hao, even if we are willing to make peace, Chen Yang probably won't. Of course, so, we can only sacrifice the person who caused trouble for us. When he said this, the haze in Lan Hao's eyes was full. If it wasn't for this white pine, he wouldn't have gotten into trouble with the evil star Chen Yang. How have their 7 fleets been subjected to such anger? However, the situation is so compelling that he cannot help making compromise choices. Everyone prepare yourself, and stabilize the white pine first. I'm going to contact Chen Yang. The following people made up their minds almost instantly and made the decision that the dead friends should not die the poor. At the same time, Chen Yang, who was about to fight the final battle with the United Fleet, received an unfamiliar voice. Lan Hao, what is he calling here at this time? To make a pre-war declaration. Chen Yang hung up the communication. He didn't have time to chat with the 6 major fleets at this time. As a result, after hanging up for 3 seconds, the other party sent another communication request. After hesitating for 2 seconds, he finally got through the communication. He wanted to see what this guy Lan Hao wanted to do. As soon as it was connected, a slightly sunny voice came from the opposite side, and it sounded like he was not very old. But everyone knows that the seemingly young captain of the Azure Fleet is already over 50. It was a burst of greetings like old friends, which made Chen Yang quite uncomfortable. Mr. Lan Hao, if you are calling at this time just to chat with me, I think I can invite you to my flagship restaurant to have a good chat later, to ensure that you are satisfied. Ha ha ha, Leader Chen Yang is so young, he really has a great sense of humor. Is it funny? Chen Yang asked coldly. The other side choked all of a sudden. Probably because he didn't expect Chen Yang to be so indifferent, he waited for 5 seconds before he heard this sentence. Cut off the war. This is good for both of us. Lan Hao lowered his voice, probably this is his true style. A truce. How can it be so false when you say this from the mouths of your provocateurs? If you can win, I call you a truce, will you stop? Chen Yang scoffed at this. Won't. Lan Hao is very honest, not as vain as Chen Yang imagined. We won't stop the war because the United Fleet is a group with mixed interests, and often one of us cannot make a decision, but you are different. You mean I'm a fool? No, I mean, Captain Chen Yang knows how to weigh the pros and cons and think independently. Hee, Chen Yang sneered. Lan Hao responded with a loud roar and fired. Immediately afterwards, the overwhelming sound of shelling sounded, and hundreds of sailing warships were sent into the sea again. Captain Chen Yang, don't you want to think about your ultimate goal in coming to the Sea of Storms? I don't think it's a fight with our 6 fleets, but for the legendary Azure City, right? Get rid of you, isn't the Azure City mine? But what if we destroy Base Island early? You have this ability. Believe me, I know the Azure Sea territory better than you. I have studied it for 30 years, and every year I am gathering strength to find a way to enter that door. It can be said that no one in the entire Azure Sea knows the existence of this city better than me. When he said this, Lan Hao seemed extremely conceited. But he has the confidence to be conceited. After all, how many people can bear their temper and stay in this novice area of love for a year? Lan Hao lowered his voice and said, I can tell you a secret about the Azure City. I think it can be used as a bargaining chip of mutual trust between you and me. Chen Yang rested his chin in one hand, suddenly curious. Tell me. According to my research, it is not enough to collect 10 base islands. Even if all the keys are in place, the door cannot be opened. Why? Because sacrifices are still needed. Sacrifice? What sacrifice? Killing people. No, it's ships, enough ships, 100,000 ships. Chen Yang frowned. This old guy, didn't their joint fleet just bring 100,000 sailing warships this time? Could it be that it was used for sacrifice in the first place? Although this reason is ridiculous, for some reason, Chen Yang couldn't help but want to believe it. It's ridiculous, do you think I believe it? Endless Sea is not a magical world, and it still needs such a stupid way of sacrifice. Young man, you still don't understand the Endless Sea. The Endless Sea is vast and has countless mysteries. There are many things that science and magic can't explain. What I said is the truth. If you don't believe it, this topic can only be stopped here. Chen Yang's expression changed, and he was not sure whether Lan Hao's words were true or not. Instead of agreeing immediately, he asked instead, if the two sides cease fighting, will the old dog Bai Song agree? The other party smiled. Bai Song? What Bai Song? He wants to fight you. What does it matter to our 5 fleets? Chen Yang froze for a moment, and instantly understood what this guy meant. Hello, you old and cunning Lan Hao. Very good, as long as you don't intervene, I will consider the cooperation you mentioned after I kill the white pine. Then wish us a happy cooperation. Here, as soon as Chen Yang hung up the communication, he used the predator trading system to get through to the girl Binglin. Hey, did Chen Yang big brother miss me? How do you know that he just washed his perfume? How bad? Chen Yang clutched his head, feeling the pain in his head. How did you get such a problematic girl? Can you be normal? Put on your clothes quickly. Ma slipped over here, I need your help here. The other party hesitated for half a second, and then exclaimed, Honey, do you want to bring the fleet? It's 20% off for you. Whoever wants your broken copper and iron, just you. By the way, if the golden dragon is with you, remember to take it with you. The battlefield where the agreement was reached suddenly became weird. Although Bai Song still took the lead and drove the flagship non-stop. However, the large army behind them slowly lost touch. Bai Song, who was extremely angry, didn't notice this detail. Instead, he lost himself in the bursts of solidarity from the captains behind him. In this battle, if Chen Yang is not destroyed, he will not stop. The fleets of both sides rushed all the way to the sea area less than 5 kilometers away. Tens of thousands of guns were fired, and the shells streaked across the sky, continuously falling into the opponent's fleet. Chen Yang was also red-eyed, pursuing as much lethality as possible, so he pulled the fleet to the current close-range bombardment. It was almost impossible to install a bayonet on the naval gun and let the battleship rush up to fight the bayonet. Black Dragon, good opportunity, pull out your defensive heavy artillery, let this little fool Chen Yang see it. Bai Song yelled, facing Chen Yang's overwhelming firepower suppression, his firepower couldn't stand it at all. Black Dragon, Bai Song turned his head back suddenly, only to realize that his fleet was far away from the main force, and rushed too fast. Lan Hao, what are you doing? Bai Song finally realized that something was wrong. On the rear flagship, several captains watched with cold eyes without saying a word. How could Bai Song not understand that he was being sold? Suddenly he was furious. You fools, short-sighted guys, betrayed teammates. Captain Bai Song, all these incidents were provoked by you and resolved by yourself, isn't it reasonable? The Black Dragon's slightly mocking voice sounded. Lan Hao, you can't listen to Black Dragon's slander, this guy will only miss a big deal. As long as our 6 fleets work together, we will be able to wipe out this Chen Yang thief. If you don't get rid of Chen Yang, it will cause future troubles, and you will regret it. Lan Hao didn't speak, and the black dragon next to him continued to make up his sword. Bai Song, don't deceive yourself, any decision made by Brother Lan Hao, I, the black dragon, will naturally obey. You are too radical, and you never think about the consequences when you do things. That's why you fail again and again, it's a pity that you still can't understand people. These words of sarcasm pierced Bai Song's heart like sharp knives. This moment, instead, he calmed down and laughed out loud. Suddenly realized that cooperation and alliances have never been the main tone of the Endless Sea, but betrayal and utilization. He didn't turn around and run away, but looked back at the Chenyang fleet that was close at hand. Chenyang, little thief, I will fight with you. Facing Bai Song's cries of doom, Chenyang just secretly commanded the fleet to open all the torpedo watertight doors. Like an old wolf abandoned by the group, Bai Song grinned at Chenyang for the last time. Put order. Hundreds of warships fired thousands of torpedoes simultaneously. Play again. A second wave of torpedoes followed. Instead of retreating, Bai Song advanced, calling for the last airship troops to attack from the side. When the dazzling air defense net once again set up a protective umbrella over the fleet's head, balls of fire rose and burned in the sky. The torpedo finally arrived. Boom, 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 boom. The explosive power of a heavy torpedo far exceeds that of a shell, and it can sink a giant steel ship of 10,000 tons in one shot, not to mention the only remaining ironclad fleet of Bai Song. At this moment, there is no tense and heroic battle march, and there are no off-screen audiences applauding and cheering. Smoke, explosion, death. It became the final theme of this war. Fleet salvo. Facing the Bai Song flagship that was still charging at the end, Chenyang paid the highest respect to the opponent in front of him. As his opponent from the beginning to the end after entering the Azure Sea territory, Bai Song is indeed a qualified opponent. Even if he was betrayed by his teammates in the end, he didn't choose to back down, so he could be regarded as a real fighter. Facing the overwhelming shells falling, Bai Song clenched his fists and shouted at Chenyang, "Little thief Chenyang, I'll wait for you in hell." The sound of the explosion hit like a landslide and a tsunami, completely submerging everything. When the flames dissipated, there were only countless burning and sunken wrecks left on the sea surface, which fell into the abyss with the sound of crunching and squeezing. A generation of heroes Bai Song, fall. The daily breathing is clear, as if moving away the boulder that has been pressed on the body for a long time. At this moment, self-confidence is raised to another level. Didn't wait for him to start. Lan Hao's compliment came from the opposite side. Leader Chenyang, we have fulfilled our promise and shown our sincerity. Are you satisfied? Relying on betraying the sincerity of your teammates, don't you feel anxious? Lan Hao sneered. This is the Endless Sea. Use it if it is valuable, and discard it if it is not worth it. It is nothing more than a normal thing. What if I insist on continuing the war? Chenyang threatened. I don't believe you won't. As a second sincerity, you can take away this White Pine base island. Lan Hao is confident that Chenyang will not continue to fight. After all, he has to save his strength and enter the Azure City. Beside, Orf whispered, Captain, do you want me to outflank and completely eliminate the 5 major fleets? Chenyang shook his head. The fleet is consuming a lot, so it needs to replenish fuel and ammunition in time, and there are still many ships that need to be repaired due to injuries. The most important thing is that the duration of the Azure Gate is limited. If it is not opened, the next time it will be opened will be 2 years later. He glanced at the 5 major fleets that were waiting in full battle. They did not appear to be defeated because of the destruction of the White Pine fleet. Obviously, the 5 major fleets still have their own hidden cards. It is not worthwhile to continue fighting. Chenyang grabbed with his right hand and used the plundering ability against the White Pine fleet. Scrape away all the remaining supplies of the White Pine fleet. Finally, a miniature island in the shape of a flying eagle rushed out of the sea and flew into Chenyang's hands. This is Base Island, Tianxiang. Being able to be captured by Chenyang using the plundering ability proves that Bai Song is really dead. On this, Chenyang holds 4 base islands in his hands, and he is the only one in the limelight. Lan Hao, stop the war. Open the Azure Gate first. Chenyang offered to propose an armistice agreement, and all the frightened captains couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. If the fight continues, there is only one way to defeat. Mano Zhao underestimated Chenyang's strength. In the past, Bai Song always thought it was alarmist talk, but after seeing this war, the high-ranking captains finally realized that their time has passed. When the captains gathered together with their respective flagships, a huge gap can be seen from the tonnage of the flagship alone. They were shocked by the elegant and complex structure of the king under the seat of Chen Yang, as well as the ferocious and mighty artillery. This is simply a work of art in war. The red beard couldn't help sighing. Bai Song didn't deserve to lose. The moon is as quiet as water, but the thoughts in my heart are turbulent. For the first time, the captains really recognized the gap between the two sides. Looking at the ironclad ship under his feet again, it is simply a product of several eras behind. In the distance, countless main guns aimed at the assembled flagships. A slight change will usher in an overwhelming and devastating blow. How to fight? Several captains quietly put away their little juju. Half an hour later, the blue light gate in the sky became brighter and brighter, and when it finally reached a limit, it completely solidified and turned into a huge metal gate that descended from the sky. Bang! The giant gate fell from the sky, fell into the sea, and finally floated safely on the sea surface. This moment, everything is silent here, and when all the turmoil falls, the sea surface also becomes calm. The gate is a double arch made of unknown metal. On the door, the blue waves are used as the base, and 10 gorgeous ukiyo-e paintings are depicted around the central door. Each painting has a triangular groove of the same shape in the center. The big lock of the central mechanism is tightly buckled, as if something extraordinary is sealed. System, why do I feel that the method of summoning the gate is so similar to my way of summoning the battleship? By the way, are you relatives? Insufficient system information, unable to answer. Cut. Boring. Chen Yang thought that the system had some special connection with the Azure City. Masters of the base island, don't hide anymore, prepare to show up. The voice just fell. Aside, there was a grunting sound, and a gray-black round submarine emerged from the water. It is not so much a submarine as it is a submersible ship. It cannot dive into deep water, and it can only dive 10 meters at most to 343. The hatch was opened, and Blood River dressed in red appeared in front of everyone for the first time. Blood River has met all the captains and Captain Chen Yang. Chen Yang stared at this guy. Good guy, this guy really likes red. Red clothes, red hair, red shoes, even gloves and lining are red. However, there is a pair of blue and red pupils with different colors, which is unspeakable for a big man. No one knows his real name. Blood River is just a code name. The past 2 years have also been extraordinarily low-key. Immediately after, not far away, a huge ironclad ship approached at an extremely fast speed. Ironclad warships of the 10,000-ton class are extremely rare in the entire Blue Sea area, and they can be counted in the palm of your hand. I didn't expect there to be one in Chichian. And on his boat, there is another unexpected person, Aoshin. Chen Yang narrowed his eyes. No wonder he didn't see this weed on the battlefield. It turned out that he became a family slave of the 3 surnames and took refuge in Chichian. Brother Chen Yang fought so wonderfully in this battle just now, it's enough to be recorded in the history of Azure Sea region. When Chichian came up, he began to compliment, as if he was harmless to humans and animals. He did not forget to politely greet the captains with stinky faces. Lan Hao said, "Okay, since everyone is here, I won't talk nonsense. The Azure Gate has arrived. Let's work together to open the Azure Gate. After entering the ruins, everyone will use their abilities to find their own opportunities. What do you think?" Lan Hao stood up to speak and was recognized by everyone, who nodded their heads one after another. After all, a bronze-colored base island appeared in his hand, with a standard inverted triangle shape, slowly floating into the air. Its base island, Bastion. Others also summoned their own base islands. Qianyuan Island in the hands of the moon, Jinglei Island in the hands of the Black Dragon, Flying Fish Island in the hands of Redbeard, Huichun Island in the hands of Chichian, and Guardian Island in the hands of Blood River. 6 people, 6 base islands. In the end, all eyes were on Chen Yang. He didn't bother to show off. With a wave of his right hand, 4 base islands with different colors emerged in his palm. Some people are envious, some people are jealous. Chen Yang got 4 base islands by himself. This is luck and strength. No one dared to underestimate the power of this Bilan rookie king. If it were not for a timely truce, the 7 fleets are estimated to have become history. After the 10 base islands emerged, the giant door began to tremble, and a light came out from the crack of the door. It seems to be activated. Immediately after, the gate attracts the base island to fly towards the triangular grooves carved in the gate. One by one, like keys, they are tightly embedded in it. This moment, the ground shook and the mountains shook, and the entire sea of storms seemed to be shaking. The 10 ukiyo-e prints started to spin, and the speed became faster and faster. Lan Hao, who seemed to realize something, roared, "Prepare to sacrifice." Boom, afe, boom. A sail warship that had been evacuated long ago was detonated. In order to sacrifice, Lan Hao deliberately mobilized a lot of low-level sailing warships, and made up a total of 50,000. More than 50,000 warships were sunk by Chen Yang before, and now another 50,000 warships have been sunk. The gate finally reacted and lit up with a sky-high blue light. In an instant, the entire sea of storms was illuminated, and the surroundings and the bottom of the sea also lit up with bits and pieces of blue light. It was faintly visible that soul-like large ships were flying towards the huge beam of light. This scene stunned everyone present. Even Chen Yang couldn't help rubbing his eyes. "I'm going, what the hell? Virtual projection. Is it my hallucination? It's the soul of the ship." A crisp voice sounded behind Chen Yang, and before he could turn around, a pair of slender hands embraced his arms familiarly. A familiar scent came from the side. "Look sideways. Today's girl is dressed in a dark lolita, with heavy makeup, the whole dark system, and a big gun on her back. It's really a strange look." Chen Yang twitched his arm unnaturally, but failed to break free. "Ship spirit, what is that?" As the name suggests, of course it is the soul of the ship. Every ship has it. This is the common sense of the endless sea. Common sense. Why don't I know? I forgot. You are still in the novice area, you will know later. You mean, the ship has a mind and a soul of its own? No, the meaning is different. The souls of ships are different from the souls of humans and animals. How should I put it? They will only be manifested under special circumstances. Chen Yang stared at the ship souls flying all over the sky, and subconsciously looked down at the battleship king under his feet, wondering if the battleship summoned by the system had ship souls. As if responding to Chen Yang's thoughts, the battleship under his feet shook slightly, and he didn't know whether it was the effect of the waves or his own illusion. How does he feel that at this moment, all the warships have their own thoughts? It's just that this will is imposed on him, and he will not be shaken by the mysterious door. These ships of yours have great potential. It is not impossible to transform into a ship spirit in the future. The girl who sensed something said with a smile. What is the ship spirit? Obviously, what the girl said today touched her own blind spot of knowledge. The ship spirit is the embodiment of the ship's self-will. I have seen old ships that have experienced thousands of battles suddenly awaken, get the blessing of the ship spirit, upgrade the battleship, and become a super battleship. How do I feel like you're talking about an intelligent AI system? What smart eye? The girl turned around in confusion. It's okay, the door seems to be opening, let's get ready. The other captains were all ready, and the fleet began to assemble, neatly lined up in front of the blue door. At this time, the door trembled. A ray of light came out from the gap in the door, and with the distant creaking sound, the dusty door was opened again. Until a while, the gate was really opened, and the aperture expanded, slowly expanding into a blue light gate with a square kilometer. Is this the legendary Azure Gate? Orf's surprised voice sounded from behind. He changed into a military uniform, and the little green beside him also changed into a small sailor uniform, which looked quite good. The little girl stared closely at the girl next to Chen Yang, frowning with a vigilant look on her face. The girl suddenly turned her head and drank lightly, which made Xiaolu tremble. Wow, Grandpa Orf, she scares me. All of a sudden hid behind Orf. Ha ha ha. The girl Bing Shell laughed loudly. Chen Yang, this is the little maid you picked up. I'm not a little maid, but I want to be the captain, the little green who maintains world peace. Xiaolu yelled. PFF'd. These words made the girl laugh, and she shook her finger. Little girl, you want to be the captain too. How old are you? You also don't look very old. Xiaolu muttered. I'm 17, I'll be 18 soon, around older than you. Bing Sha put her hands on her hips, looking like a big sister. Xiaolu pursed her lips and stared at her chest. It's so flat, who knows if what you said is true. Girl, ask for a beating. Beside, Chen Yang, who had a premonition that something was wrong, quickly pulled the girl back. How old are you, and you still know as much as a brat? Orf walked up to the girl. This must be Miss Bingdu. The girl was very satisfied with the title of eldest lady, so she took another look at Orf. Chen Yang, this is your housekeeper. It looks pretty good. What housekeeper? This is my fleet admiral. Don't be ignorant of manners, call Grandpa Orf. Cough, cough, no need, you can just call me Orf, and the old man is no longer an admiral, and it is not an exaggeration to say that I am the old steward of the Chen Yang fleet, ha ha ha. The old man's hearty smile is very contagious. Let the girls have a good impression. As for that dead girl Xiaolu, she was hiding behind Orf and making faces at her. A few people are chatting. The door has been fully opened. Everyone is looking forward to it. What kind of great legend is hidden behind this ancient gate that has been silent for countless years? Leader Chen Yang, please. Lan Hao made a gesture of please to Chen Yang. No, no, such an important opportunity should be given to Captain Lan Hao. I can go in later. Chen Yang was wary of this door, and his intuition told him that there might not be a fairyland behind the door. Lan Hao saw that Chen Yang was not fooled, so he could only send a small fleet to test it out. When a team of sailing warships slowly entered the gate of blue light rippled like blue waves. Disappeared behind the gate in a blink of an eye. After waiting for a few minutes, a small boat sailed out with its sails shaking. It looks safe inside and not as dangerous as imagined. Receive. Chen Yang grabbed it with his right hand, and 4 base islands flew back to his hand. The other captains followed suit and took back their base islands one after another. Ha ha ha, Captain Chen Yang, I'll take a step ahead. See you in Azure City. With a wave of Lan Hao's hand, he has seized the channel and led the other 4 fleets to the gate. Hey Chen Yang, take advantage of this moment, kill them and send them all to the sea to feed the fish. The girl encouraged from the side. Chen Yang glanced at her speechlessly. In case there are organs and dangers inside, a few more cannon fodder, wouldn't it give me a sense of security? Hey, you guys are darker than me. The girl was amazed. Then, I don't know where to take out a sun lounger, holding a drink, I don't know where I thought I was on vacation. Hey, I invited you here to be a consultant. If you have any information, why don't you disclose it quickly? What's the hurry? Haven't you gone in yet? I have to confirm the situation inside before we talk about it. Besides, I haven't been here before. If I make a mistake, wouldn't it be a mistake? If you blame me then, I won't be responsible. Talking, she pulled out a large box and boomed it on the deck. See if you have brought all the equipment, I'm a professional. Chen Yang stared at the box for a long time but didn't see any clues. Does anyone know what field she is referring to? Finally, the joint fleet of Lan Hao and others entered the gate before Chen Yang's fleet slowly started to move. At this time, Qi Qian appeared again. Leader Chen Yang, there are bound to be many crises in the Azure City this time, and I hope to form an alliance with Leader Chen Yang again and discuss major plans together. Chen Yang glanced at this guy. Cooperation. Before, you fool knew how to hide and watch the show, but you didn't mean to help in the slightest. Alliance. I'll think about it. But I think the strength of Captain Qi Qian is enough to deal with all difficulties, isn't it? These words carry 3 points of ridicule, 5 points of contempt, and 2 points of anger. Qi Qian opened his mouth. Before the 2 sides fought, he hid behind and sat on the mountain to watch the tigers fight. He originally planned to cooperate with whoever wins, so that he can make a steady profit without losing money. But never thought that a decisive battle would come to an end in this way. It also made him end up as a human being inside and out. Before Qi Qian could say the second sentence, Chen Yang moved. The rolling fleet started to start, emitting thick black smoke. Looking back, the huge steel fleet was breathtaking and exciting. Looking at the mighty fleet going away, Qi Qian felt a little regretful. If I had known that Chen Yang had this strength, I only needed to make a little effort in the decisive battle, and maybe the ending would be completely different. After all, the icing on the cake is never as good as giving charcoal in the snow. At this time, a red fleet slowly approached. Captain Qi Qian, long time no see. Looking at Zue with different colored pupils, he doesn't look like a man in strange clothes. Is there a problem? Since that Chen Yang rejected Captain Chi's cooperation intention, why not form an alliance with us? Otherwise, relying on their respective weak strengths, can he get a share of the pie between Chen Yang and Lan Hao? Alliance with you? Hee, a mouse that doesn't even dare to show its true colors deserves to form an alliance with me. Ridiculous. Amid Shuihei's complexion changing several times, Qiqian walked away in a huff. Blood pressure all over Shuihei's body went up in anger. HMPH, how can a shit-stirring stick be better than me? Are you qualified to laugh at me? Blood River roared. At the same time, Chen Yang's fleet has already begun to sail into the dark blue gate, dreamlike, as if blending with the surrounding sea water. How long has it been since I saw you, and you built such a large fleet? Chen Yang, you can do it. The girl Bingxia couldn't help but praise. It's just so, I'm still far behind our admiral. Hey, are you praising someone or hurting him? The girl heard the implication and waved her small fist. By the way, where is Jinlong? You didn't bring him with you. Just as he was passing through the Gate of Light, Chen Yang suddenly thought of the Golden Dragon. Golden Dragon? What kind of Golden Dragon? I don't know. A moment or 1,000 years. When the sight in front of them was restored again, everyone was shocked by the fantastic scene in front of them. Like a piece of blue ocean suspended in midair. It's a space of its own. The sky is full of stars above the head. The starlight casts down, illuminating the high wall in front of Wei Ran. The hundreds of meters high city wall stretches across the blue sea, like a giant dragon that has been dormant for thousands of years. Looking up, a Titan palace stands in the distance. Behind the city wall, huge and majestic pillars support a mysterious city. Thin clouds and mist hover around the corners of the city, setting off the giant city like a fairyland. People who entered this mysterious space were shocked by the fantastic scene in front of them, and they didn't know whether it was real or not. Some believers fell down and worshipped, shouting that they had entered the realm of the gods. Chen Yang opened his mouth wide. There are not many things in this world that can shock him, and the city in front of him is definitely one of them. Is the legendary Azure City. Beside, the girl opened the box and took out a sketch from it. In contrast, the sketch was 80% similar to the giant city in front of her. Finally found it, the base camp of the legendary Azure Overlord. There must be a lot of treasures hidden inside. The girl rubbed her little hands excitedly, looking excited. Chen Yang, speed up, let's go to the city to find treasure. Looking for you, big head ghost. This city seems to be full of vitality. Do you think its owner is still alive? What are you thinking? If the master is still alive, you and I won't be able to enter this place at all. Voice just fell. A vortex suddenly rolled up in front of the huge city gate in front of it, and the navigators who were trying to get close to the city gate backed away one after another. What happened? Everyone is amazed. The vortex took shape, and the azure seawater solidified into a human shape, with a height of 100 feet, standing safely on the vortex of the seawater. The loud voice does not rely on the loudspeaker, and the whole ocean is trembling for the voice. Heirs of the Azure Sea region, welcome to the Azure City. I am the steward of the Azure City. The butler of the Azure City. Everyone looked up, and saw the 100-foot-tall figure wearing a black robe, with his face covered by a wide brim that could not be seen clearly. It looks quite mysterious. Mr. Steward, you call us inheritors. Does that mean that all of us present here are eligible to inherit the Azure City? Someone asked with a loud voice. That's right, since you can open the Azure Gate, it proves that you are qualified to inherit the Azure City, but the butler changed the subject. However, the Azure City is facing a crisis now. Whoever can win the highest honor in the next defense battle of the Azure City and help the Azure City complete the defense will be able to win the inheritance of the Azure City. Right. Crisis. Defense battle. The Voyagers looked at each other. I don't know why. Brother Lan Hao, what's going on? Why is there still a guard battle? Hailong asked anxiously. Don't worry, everyone, the real test is coming. Prepare to fight. Lan Hao seemed to know something. He only talked about preparing for the battle without explaining. Chen Yang turned his head, and the girl behind him was hanging all kinds of equipment on her body. Hello, what are you doing? Get ready for battle. Are you planning to charge into battle alone? Be prepared. Voice just fell. Everyone felt that their surroundings seemed to have changed. Huge bubbles fell one after another, covering the fleet. Immediately afterwards, when the surroundings returned to calm again, they feel like they have been thrown thousands of miles away. When sight was restored, everyone found that they and their fleets had been transferred to this vast city. What happened? Chen Yang feels that he can no longer explain everything here with science. Just waiting outside the city, it was moved to the wide city wall in a blink of an eye. Look back. The mysterious giant city supported by the huge pillars still stands majestically, bathed in the starlight. The sea area under their feet seems to have turned into a super large flag plate. Each fleet represents a drop. The opponent was able to accurately separate the different forces of each fleet. The tall city wall in front seems to become transparent, and you can see the scene outside the city wall. Far away, the white mist began to permeate, and then the mist turned into rolling mist waves, crossing the blue sea and heading towards the blue city. What is that? Someone exclaimed. Sudden, a shrill siren sounded on the city wall. The sharp alarm pierced the sky and resounded throughout the blue city. Look up. The stars in the sky seemed to become chaotic. It didn't wait for these captains to figure out what happened. They saw starlight suddenly condense into a huge translucent throne behind them. On the throne, a man with a peaceful face leaned lazily on the throne. He propped his cheek with his left hand and stared at the flag plate in front of him. The huge right hand suddenly stretched out, grabbing a flag that didn't exist. This flag is the Azure Fleet represented by Lan Hao. The giant hand held the chess piece and pushed it forward, pressing down lightly. The blue water was rippling, and Lan Hao's blue fleet was instantly teleported to the landing point. What is that? Chen Yang was so shocked that he couldn't speak. What kind of mighty force can move 10,000 warships as flags at will? Is he a god? It's City Lord Bilan. The girl's eyes were burning, and she looked at the translucent titan excitedly. Is he still alive? Chen Yang felt his scalp go numb. Of course not, this is just an image projected from the Azure City, an image from the past. Past, you may understand it as a reappearance of a scene at a certain moment in the past. At this time, it is just a reenactment of that scene, and it does not happen now. You mean hallucinations? False, not necessarily. Anyway, be careful. Before Chen Yang could speak, he saw those lazy eyes already looking towards him. Hold the chess piece representing his fleet with 2 fingers, and push it forward. Settle down. Chen Yang's fleet was instantly teleported to the battlefield chessboard. During this period, he did not feel any abnormality or discomfort. Can't help but sigh again the supernatural powers of the Blue City Lord. Just when the Blue City Lord kept dropping suns. On the opposite side of the chessboard, the billowing white mist finally revealed some clues. Sudden, something came out of the white mist. A large number of red flying creatures that looked like bats and pterosaurs swarmed out of the white mist. These strange creatures are not good at first glance, as if they had been starving for hundreds of years, they were suddenly released. As soon as it flew around the sky, it locked the fleet on the chessboard. All sound the anti-aircraft siren and prepare for battle. Chen Yang grabbed the girl and quickly dragged the dazed girl into the cabin. Immediately after, strange roars sounded, and these strange creatures with a wingspan of about 5 meters and long slender mouths swooped down towards the fleet in groups. Fire! Fire! Chen Yang yelled at the top of his throat. In an instant, hundreds of destroyers burst out a dense firepower net. Be careful, this is a pterosaur bat, a dangerous ancient creature that can spit poisonous acid bombs to attack battleships. The girl exclaimed in alarm. When these strange creatures attacked, there were still chess pieces falling around. They finally know what the so-called test is. Fleet just ready. Countless pterosaur bats swooped down, opened their mouths, and spit green poisonous acid towards the fleet. This poisonous acid is not only highly toxic, but also highly corrosive. Wood, metal, all are within the corrosion attack range of this Lei-Jun liquid. Although the treated Bernuk alloy steel of the battleship has strong corrosion resistance, it is still difficult to encounter this weird poisonous acid bomb. Fire, fire, and never let these monsters break through the air defense circle. Chen Yang finally understood why the system rewarded the Fletcher-class air defense destroyer in advance. The densely packed pterosaur bats kept attacking like dive bombers. However, Under the interception of the anti-aircraft firepower of hundreds of destroyers, they continued to fall into the sea. Not only him, but other fleets were also attacked by pterosaur bats. Compared with Chen Yang, their air defense is stretched. However, these fleets are not defenseless. The chain bombs and flowering bombs fired by the artillery are very lethal to such dense air units. 05 Although the battle was difficult, after the initial panic, these fleets stabilized their formation. There are many pterosaur bats, but their flying speed is really average, so they can be shot down easily. Coupled with the fact that they are flesh and blood with limited destructive power, after the first wave of offensive suffered a small amount of losses, the threat of these pterosaur bats was greatly reduced. At this time, Chen Yang noticed that the blue numbers above the head of the Angle fleet were constantly beating. Each fleet has them, and the numbers vary. According to observation, killing a pterodactyl bat gives you 1 point. The more kills you get, the more points you get. His own fleet has scored more than 30,000 points in just 1 hour. Temporarily at the top, ranked second is Lan Hao's fleet, who actually scored more than 20,000 points. It is estimated that some special equipment was used. The third place turned out to be the Blood River fleet, such an unexpected force. The points exceeded 15,000 points, which was 1,000 points more than Qi Qian's 14,000 points. The points of the two sides were biting hard, and for a while, no one would give in to the other. After the major fleets stabilized, they entered the competition for scoring points. But good things don't last long. I saw the white mist rolling. More pterosaur bats rushed out. The number is double that of the first wave. Not only that, this time, some giant pterosaur bats with larger size and strong scales appeared in the pterosaur bats and flew out. Visually, the wingspan of these pterosaur bats exceeds 10 meters, and the most eye-catching part of these pterosaur bats is covered with white alienated tissue. These alienated tissues grow on the back and abdomen, with strange holes distributed, which seem to be able to spray poisonous thorns and attack, with strong penetrating power. The second wave of danger is coming, all warships pay attention. Chen Yang gave a loud shout. The second wave of offensive is obviously much stronger than the first wave, and the number is also much larger. As soon as they approached, the dense anti-aircraft firepower lit up, and the iron net mode was turned on. Mutated pterosaur bats are faster and more destructive. The alienated tissue in the abdomen shrank violently, spewing out sharp poisonous arrows galloping towards it. Chen Yang saw with his own eyes a poisonous arrow penetrated the not-so-sturdy deck armor of a V-type destroyer, and the poisonous arrow exploded. The acid sac that rose up corroded a large hole several meters in the deck. So destructive. At the same time, the channel is also in chaos. Lan Hao, be careful of those big guys, kill these big bats first, and the other 4 fleets will move closer to me. Black Dragon. What the hell are these things? Are monsters attacking the city? What kind of messed up test is this? Redbeard. Black Dragon, can you die if you don't say a few words? Everyone support me, I can't stand it anymore. At this time, the lazy figure on the huge throne moved. Pressed down a blue pawn with one hand. 100-meter-high anti-aircraft towers fell into the chessboard. A total of 100 seats are regularly distributed on the blue chessboard. These strangely shaped anti-aircraft towers can release large aerial nets, and each ejection can clear a large area of the airspace. Hundreds of pterosaur bats were bound by nets and fell into the sea. This efficiency is even stronger than Chen Yang's dense anti-aircraft firepower. Please pay attention to all the trialists. Enemy destroyers will appear. Please protect the air defense towers in the sea area. At this moment, the reminder from the butler of the Azure City sounded. Destroyer. Everyone is curious. White mist rolling. A huge monster crawled out of the thick fog. Huge crabs opened their teeth and claws, waving huge pincers. These crabs are huge, with a length of 100 meters, full of oppression. Behind it, the white dissimulated tissue protrudes high, forming a volcano-like muzzle. After a lot of contraction, a burning bolide soared into the sky, and struck a white jade-like anti-aircraft tower across a distance of tens of kilometers. The bolide burst like lava, and the hot red liquid contained high temperature and was full of destructive power. The white anti-aircraft tower was gnawed on the spot, and a big hole was made, and it could no longer support it, and it creaked and fell down. The anti-aircraft tower will be reduced by 1, and all the testers will be reduced by 3,000 points. As soon as the reminder sounded, many people began to scold their mothers. Some people have just reached 10,000 points, and 3/3 of them are gone in a blink of an eye. If there are a few more anti-aircraft towers, wouldn't the points become negative? At this time, Lan Hao stood up and said, "Everyone, since there are joint rules for this trial, I hope that everyone will let go of their previous prejudices and fight against the enemy together and solve the immediate crisis first." 000 I agree. Black Dragon was the first to jump out to support. I agree too. Blood River was the second to agree. Obviously, the 3,000 points just lost made him fall behind Qi Qian's New Century fleet. I agree. Qi Qian nodded. At this time, cooperation is still the main thing. In the end, Chen Yang agreed to the alliance after weighing the pros and cons. Anti-aircraft towers are important, even for him. If he loses 10 anti-aircraft towers, his points will return to 0. Then the Azure City Lord will never hand over the inheritance to a fleet with 0 points. In this way, all parties have temporarily reached an interim agreement to jointly guard these star-studded air defense towers. These crab monsters have strong destructive power, high damage, and long range. The biggest disadvantage is that they move slowly and attack slowly. Passive defense is definitely not enough, only active attack. But on this issue, everyone quickly fell into a stalemate. It's a matter of who defends and who attacks. Naturally, you can't get points for defense. Only by taking the initiative to attack and kill the crab monsters can you get more points. For a while, the major fleets refused to give in to each other, insisted on their own opinions, and quarreled. Everyone, stop arguing. How about this? We can use the rotation system, divide into 3 groups, and each group will guard for a period of time. How about depending on family preference? Chen Yang opened his mouth, telling everyone to stop talking, and to move their eyes over one after another. How about this? I will take the lead, as the first batch of guards. What do you think? Hearing this, the other captains responded one after another. Chen Yang, the head of the group, really understands righteousness and cares about the overall situation. Words like these made Chen Yang feel disgusted. There was no expression on his face, but he was smiling in his heart. Hey, Chen Yang, are you stupid? You gave up a good opportunity to someone else. The girl was speechless. Don't worry, believe it or not, they will beg me to get the boat later. Who are you fooling, just relying on these profit-seeking guys? Beside, Orf picked up the notebook and handed it to Chen Yang. According to my observations and calculations, these crab monsters have rough skin and thick flesh. If the armor is thickened in proportion, the main guns below 300 mm cannot penetrate their armor at all. And even if the 25 caliber 305 main gun equipped on a heavy ironclad ship wants to hit the crab monster armor at a long distance, it is a dream. What if it is to shoot at its weak position? Chen Yang asked. There are not many weak points of these big crabs. The joints, eyes, and mouth are 3 places, but it's not easy to shoot these 3 places. The girl took the notebook away. Seeing the complicated data on it gave her a headache. You mean, even if these guys' warships go there, they won't be able to penetrate the armor of these crabs? At least most of it. Voice just fell. Several large fleets have already started to launch attacks on the crab monsters. Sail warships are useless, and of course the weakest have to send ironclad ships. The booming cannon sounded. Thousands of cannons were fired, and the momentum was good. But when the fireworks dissipated, everyone was dumbfounded. The 203 mm main gun on their ironclad ship failed to shake the crab monster at all. Except for some black scorched marks left on the solid off-white biological armor, there were no extra scars. How is it possible? Even the main guns of my ironclad ship can't penetrate the crab monster's armor. Chen Xing, who has always been content with silence, was stunned, unable to speak for a long time. No, my 280 mm main gun also failed to penetrate the crab monster's armor, it ricocheted. The red beard cursed angrily. Pull up my torpedo boat. The special equipment produced on these base islands existed as the trump card used to sneak attack the Chen Yang fleet in the decisive battle. It's a pity that these flying fish torpedo boats of mine were targeted by the opposing destroyer early on, but how can a torpedo boat of more than 100 tons be an opponent of a destroyer? As a result, they suffered heavy losses in that battle, and less than 30% of them came back alive in the end. These flying fish torpedo boats displace 200 tons. Equipped with two 450mm double-mounted torpedo launchers, the only active weapon is the 12.7mm machine gun on the bow. After simple aiming, test the waters by launching several 450mm torpedoes in rapid succession. The torpedo rushed for dozens of seconds, and 2 shots hit accurately, hitting the gray armored crab galloping on the sea surface. The rumbling explosion threw the huge crab head high, and then fell heavily. Did you make it? Everyone looked forward to it. But it saw gray body fluid continuously leaking from the broken part of the carapace, but it didn't stop advancing. Attack, attack, another 3 bursts of torpedoes. This time, 2 torpedoes were hit in succession, and then the torpedo was successfully stopped, and the half-dead crab monster that was blown up the first time was completely killed. The heavy body couldn't maintain its balance on the sea surface, its crater-like back fell backwards, and finally fell belly up in the sea. They were about to cheer, but then they couldn't scream. Because more crab monsters rushed out of the gray mist, the number far surpassed the torpedo boat of the Red Beard. His flying fish torpedo boats are only 50. It takes 2 rounds of attacks to bring down 1 head. How to block it? Lan Hao is a war fortress with a 350mm main gun. With the speed of these war fortresses, by the time they arrived, the day Lily was cold. As for Chen Yang, he sent dozens of anti-aircraft destroyers to guard the chessboard area, and those magma bombs had to fly dozens of kilometers to get here. The terminal flight speed can be intercepted by anti-aircraft machine guns, so there is no need to worry about it. On the deck of the King, several people were dressed in casual clothes, drinking drinks and singing songs, not to mention how comfortable they were. After seeing this scene, the exhausted captains jumped their feet in anger. Brother Lan Hao, what should we do now? Low-caliber shells are ineffective against these crab monsters, and the torpedo consumes a lot of energy. I'm afraid it won't last long. Yes, no wonder that boy Chen Yang suddenly kindly let us go first. He is using us as cannon fodder and consuming our shells. Lan Hao glanced at Chen Yang behind him, who was in charge of intercepting the lava bombs. This guy was leisurely and not in a hurry. Although they are very unwilling, in terms of equipment, they are indeed not as good as Chen Yang. Not to mention sailing warships, those solid shells are not enough to scratch the crabs. Let's withdraw and let Chen Yang come up. He punched the railing, although he was unwilling, but there was nothing he could do. It was the fleet moving aside that made him look sideways. This guy somehow formed an ironclad ship with heavy artillery. Although the 25 times diameter 305mm main gun has mediocre long-distance penetration, it can still cause fatal damage to these crab monsters if it is attacked closely. As for the Blood River, the mine boats kept throwing heavy mines into the water, splashing them on the route that the crab monsters must pass. These rampant crab monsters didn't know how to restrain themselves, and pushed all the way, but they were blown up by heavy mines. These 2 became the 2 with the highest points. Brother Lan Hao, what should we do now? If we drag it on, we may not be able to stop it. Hailong reminded. Lan Hao clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. Withdraw. Not long. Chen Yang, who was drinking a drink and eating melon seeds, saw the 5 major fleets returning in mighty form. Captain Lan Hao, isn't it time for shift change? Chen Yang looked puzzled. Seeing Chen Yang's smiling face, everyone wanted to rush up and give him 2 punches. These crab monsters have heavy armor and are really hard to deal with. Let's ask Captain Chen Yang to take action. Chen Yang grinned. Since Captain Lan Hao has spoken, I'd rather be respectful than obedient, and please trouble the captains to guard the air defense towers. This frivolous look glanced Nuo Jiaohao over everyone, making these captains all feel as if they had eaten a piece of mouse feces. With a big wave of his hand, little ones, get ready to work. In an instant, the fleet, which was quiet and resting, suddenly became lively, and under the complicated eyes of Lan Hao and others, they slowly sailed towards the battlefield. The so-called just at a shot, you will know if there is one. All King-class battleships rolled forward, plus a dozen Derflinger-class battle cruisers. All change armor-piercing shells, attack the weak points of these crab monsters. Boom boom boom. The sky-shaking cannon sounded, and a crab monster that had just jumped out of the sea was set on fire on the spot. The gray biomass armor was vulnerable to a high-velocity armor-piercing warhead, and was easily destroyed and shattered. The torn penetrating wound spread from the crab monster's head to its back. The warhead rolled over, stirring all the internal tissues of the crab monster into a ball of mud. Congratulations, you killed a destroyer crab monster and got 1,000 points. For the first time, the captains who were behind the time saw the gap between themselves and Chen Yang. Seeing that the crab monsters that couldn't be penetrated by their battleships were easily killed by Chen Yang's battleships, they gritted their teeth one by one, speechless for a long time. It was planned to overwhelm Chen Yang's elite fleet with a numerical advantage before, but now it seems that it is just a ridiculous joke. Boss Lan Hao, why don't we make peace with that Chen Yang? The Red Beard said weakly. Reconciliation. Lan Hao's eyes widened, staring at the Red Beard like copper bells. Isn't the synonym of so-called reconciliation just surrender? He is the overlord of the Azure Sea region. How could it be possible for him to surrender to a rookie who has only been developed for less than 3 months? The Red Beard was about to say something, but was held back by the moon behind him. She knew very well that unless the knife was put on Lan Hao's neck, it would be a dream to make him submit. This moment, everyone has their own thoughts. They went from the 7th Fleet, to the 6th Fleet, to the current 5th Fleet. They know better than anyone else that the general trend is over, and the future will be dominated by newcomers. But what if we can have a good relationship with Chen Yang at this time? In the future, it may not be impossible to continue to settle down in a corner. Lan Hao turned his head and looked at the illusory shadow on the huge throne behind him. Suddenly a plan came to mind. Everyone, I have a plan. Is interested in taking a gamble with me? If we win the bet, we will be able to rise to the top, and the entire Azure City will be ours. Lan Hao spoke suddenly, attracting the main force of the others. Brother Lan Hao, what do you want to do? There. He turned his head and pointed to the magnificent city supported by giant pillars in the distance. Can I try something? Others hesitated slightly. Do you think you can beat that Chen Yang here? Sooner or later the points will be far surpassed, and you will never be able to catch up. The opportunity is right in front of you, whether you like it or not. People are still hesitating. Lan Hao has already taken the lead, driving the battleship towards the mysterious giant city in the distance. At the same time, just as Chen Yang's fleet was hunting the last crab monster, after the crab monster was killed with concentrated fire, there was a clanging sound. His own points have soared from 30,000 just now to 800,000 now. These crab monsters allowed themselves to gain a lot of points, far surpassing the 2nd and 3rd place. Looking at the 5 major fleets, their points are still hovering at 10,000 to 20,000 points, as if they have given up the trial. Leader, I have something bad to tell you. Orf's voice sounded. What's wrong? Lan Hao and his fellows are heading to the Azure City. What? Chen Yang turned his head sharply, and saw dozens of ironclad warships headed toward the giant city supported by giant pillars, facing the sloped waterway. These fools are playing tricks on me. After all, I have to drive the battleship to catch up. The girl grabbed him. What are you doing? Of course it's chasing people. Who are you chasing after? This group of people ran around illegally, which is equivalent to automatically giving up their inheritance rights. Do you really think that they can gain control by entering that city? Chen Yang looked at the girl's fair face and asked in puzzlement, isn't it? It's you big-headed ghost. I didn't see the butler of the Azure City not moving at all. If it was really useful, why didn't the butler rush back immediately? Only then did Chen Yang realize that the butler next to the figure of the throne did not make any other movements, and still counted quietly, waiting for the start of the next trial. When in doubt, the butler's voice sounded again. Congratulations to all the testers who have completed the 2nd stage of the trial, and will now proceed to the 3rd stage of the trial. Those who complete the trial will be eligible to enter the Azure City. Is it finally here? Chen Yang looks up. The figure on the huge throne behind him was already sitting upright, with a serious expression, as if he was facing some terrible threat. Gululu. There was a strange and permeating sound in the gray mist. Beside, the idle girl suddenly became serious. Chen Yang, wait for the trial to start, and fire all the firepower immediately, don't hold back anything. Why? Just listen to me, I have a bad feeling. Chen Yang is wondering. A large number of strange-looking large ships suddenly floated out of the gray mist ahead. These large ships seem to be hulks that have drifted for hundreds of years, and the decayed formwork cannot cover the rusty metal keels in the cabin. These boats are rounded front and back, slightly wider in the center, and they are not the boat specifications that Blue Star is used to. Just after these strange ships slowly floated out of the gray mist, they got up. Quick, attack these ships. Looking at the girl who suddenly screamed, Chen Yang once thought she was crazy. What are some broken ships to attack? But then, Chen Yang couldn't calm down anymore. He trembled when he saw these strange wooden boats. Yes, trembling, they seem to be activated suddenly. Scarlet eyes light up in the damaged planks, the hull splits open, and it turns into a ship monster with teeth and claws. The most intrusive thing is that they spit gray mist from their mouths, and wherever they pass, the azure ocean is all corroded into gray, dark, decaying water. Fire! Chen Yang yelled, and the fleet opened fire crazily, spewing out dazzling flames. These strange ships are here. They are like dead ships turned into undead monster ships, and they return to the world with claws and claws, wanting to claim the souls of all life. Gray mist surge. A huge monster ship with a height of 100 feet rushed over aggressively from a distance. This huge ship is like a living creature spliced from various steel fragments. It opened its huge shark-like mouth and continuously devoured the gray ship monster in front of it. The heavy artillery kept falling, blasting these fangs and claws into pieces. Fortunately, the defensive power of these ship monsters is mediocre, otherwise this battle would be impossible to fight. However, then came the scene that made Chen Yang's scalp tingle. Under the traction of some strange force, the fragments shattered by him reassembled into a completely new ship monster. At first, Chen Yang thought that these things were some kind of parasitic monsters, some kind of living things living inside the hull. But now it seems that Lei Shi seems to be so. What the hell are these things? Chen Yang grabbed the panicked girl and asked. From her frightened expression, it can be known that these things are not simple at all. It's a gray curse. Let's run away. We can't beat these things. Gray curse. Chen Yang always felt that he had heard this name somewhere. I have only seen a few records of the legendary disaster that destroyed the ancient seafaring age in my grandfather's adventure diary. But no one has ever seen this thing. Grandpa once described it to me as the tip of the terrifying iceberg. It is still my childhood nightmare. I just didn't expect that the Azure City is actually related to the Gray Curse. This thing means something unknown. Chen Yang, send me there quickly, I want to get out of here. Chen Yang slammed the girl against the wall. Hey, are you crazy? Get me sober, hey. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.